A very good evening to one and all. Myself, Dr. Sapna Suri, Associate Professor and MBA Course Coordinator, would like to welcome you all on today's webinar on Rethinking HR Practices in 2021 and beyond, in association with Indian Merchant Chambers, MSME Chamber of Commerce and Industry of India, New Delhi, WTC World Trade Center, Navi Mumbai, Maharashtra Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture, MCCIA, Global Exports India, Global TV. I wish to throw some light on our university. DY Patil deemed to be university is UGC recognized. We are AICT approved. We have been NAC accredited A. We have been ranked as 88 by NRIF. I would now like to take an opportunity to introduce to you our own DY Patil deemed to be University School of Management. We have been situated at Sector 4 CBD Belapur, Navi Mumbai. We have state-of-the-art infrastructure. We provide 100% placement assistance. We have a 3-year BBA course, the admission for which is open. We have a 2-year MBA course, the admission for which is open. Due to this pandemic, we are providing provisional admission to our students. So whoever wishes to take admission can get in touch with us. I would now like to introduce to you Dr. Vani Kamath. Dr. Vani Kamath is currently the Dean of School of Management. She is a business management graduate and a postgraduate from Mangalore University. She has completed her PhD in finance. She has more than 35 research papers published in national and international journals of high repute. It includes Focus Index and UGC Care journals. She has 16 years of teaching experience. She has been awarded with Best Teacher by Higher Education Forum on occasion of Teachers' Day. She was also the Board of Study members of Mumbai University affiliated colleges. I welcome you, Dr. Vani Kamath. I would request Dr. Vani Kamath to kindly address the participants.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I, on behalf of DY Patil University School of Management, welcome all the participants on YouTube to our wonderful webinar on HR practices. Before I introduce the topic to you, let me just introduce our institute with all of you. For that, I'll share my presentation with everyone. Please hold on. DY Patil Group was founded by Dr. DY Patil, who is the former governor of Tripura, Bihar, and Kolkata. He is also the founder chancellor of DY Patil University. With him, we have Dr. Vijay D. Patil, the president of DY Patil University. He is the president of DY Patil Sports Academy and the president of Mumbai Cricket Association. We also have Dr. Ajinkya D.Y. Patil, the president of Ajinkya D.Y. Patil University, the president of DY Patil Group, and pro-chancellor of DY Patil University. Just a minute, I'm sharing my screen again. There was some issue. DY Patil deemed to be University Navi Mumbai was established under Section 3 of the UGC Act. It is also NAC re-accredited with A grade. It's amongst the top 10% of Indian university. Dr. Shirish Patil is the Honorable Vice Chancellor of DY Patil University. He is also the ex-Dean of DY Patil Hospital. Now, presenting to you all our very own DY Patil deemed to be University School of Management, Navi Mumbai. Our institute is located in Sector 4 CBD Belapur, Navi Mumbai. AICT has recognized our institute and we are also UGC recognized. The various recognitions which we have on our credit are Times Now survey has ranked DYPUSM as #1 private university in Mumbai. Times Business School has ranked us as 11th in Mumbai. Outlook India magazine has ranked us 63rd in all India. Careers 360 has ranked us amongst top 10 in Maharashtra with the AAA. Business Today has ranked DYPUSM as 34th in future orientation. Business World has ranked DYPUSM 94th in all India amongst the top 100. It gives me immense pleasure to also announce that DYPUSM was awarded second prize by HEF on innovation. Our students are also not less in this. They have made us proud by winning various awards at national and international level. Some of the example which I can quote here is, they have been awarded with innovation for inventing wireless home system. Some of the glimpses are here in front of you. Midday has also awarded our university with education award, excellence in education award, some of the glimpses of them. NRF is a government body which recognizes the universities considering various parameters, and our university was ranked 88th in this category. Teachers are the intellectual capital of any institute, and our senior teachers are very good in delivering lectures to the students, and this was recognized by some private bodies, and they have been recognized by giving the various awards at national levels. So some of the glimpses are here. As I told you earlier, our students have participated in various extracurricular activities and won various awards at the national and international level. Some of the glimpses are here in front of you. Our teaching staff, I'm proud to say that all our faculties are PhDs, and they share their research experience in the class, and students are very fortunate to have such a knowledgeable faculty. And I can also say that 80% of the faculties are with more than 10 years of experience. All the faculties have published their research papers in Scopus Index journals and also UGC CARE journals, which are considered as the topmost journals. More than 50% of the faculties are from the industry. Some of the glimpses of our non-teaching staff. During the pandemic, even though we were at home, we conducted various webinars and also the conferences. So some of the glimpses which we had, some of the glimpses of the conferences which we had in this year was International Business Conference, which was conducted through our online platform. And we had invited people from the industry, which are who are very eminent from the industry. Some of the glimpses of the leadership series of webinars which we had in the year 2021. There are 3 types of programs which are offered at DYPUSM. BBA, which is a 3-year graduate program. MBA, which is a 2-year postgraduate program, and a PhD. If any one of you is interested in making a career in marketing and you want to sell your product through proper channels, then MBA in Marketing Management is the best course suitable for you. If you want to be a finance manager of the future and you want to tap into the various sectors of finance and banking, then finance is something which is better for you. If you are looking for a human resource manager position, in that case, MBA in HRM is something which is best for you. And if you are looking for something in operations department of the organization, MBA in operations management is best. Then if you are looking for systems in any organization, management of system department of the organization, in that case, MBA in systems management best suits your criteria. If you are looking to be an entrepreneur of the future, then MBA in entrepreneurship management is the best course for you. As I said, DYPUSM offers core as well as sectoral programs, and we are the pioneers in starting sectoral programs. So these are the niche programs which are tapped to an industry-specific category. So in this case, we have MBA in International Business Management, wherein the students are trained on various aspects related to MNCs as to how they operate, what are the import-export procedures, and during the pandemic or without the pandemic also, it helps them the survival techniques. Then we have MBA in Sports Business Management. As all of you are aware, DYPUSM has a state-of-the-art infrastructure in the form of DY Patil Stadium, which gives the platform for the students to exhibit their category, to exhibit their knowledge related to sports, and also they can practice using the facilities provided by the stadium. So MBA in Sports Business Management best suits those students who are looking for a career in sports management. MBA in Health and Hospital Management, MBA in Pharmaceutical Industry Management, and MBA in Biotechnology Management are the booming sectors, especially in the pandemic, because we have seen that these are the three industries which are moving like anything in the pandemic because of the orders, because of the demand which they have for their products and other categories. Then we have MBA in Banking and Insurance Management. If you are looking for a career which is focused on banking and insurance, then this course is better for you. If you're looking for a course in logistics and supply chain management like Amazon, which generally goes for supply chain management, in that case, you would like to have a course on MBA in logistics and supply chain management. We also have MBA in Aviation Management, which basically targets the aviation industry. As I already told you, we conduct various intercollegiate events, and the sports event of DYPUSM is known as Colosseum, which is a 4-day event wherein our students participate with full enthusiasm. Some of the glimpses of that. The cultural activity of DYPUSM is known as Paramount, which is again a 4-day event wherein the students showcase their talents to the public. Some of the glimpses of that. DYPUSM believes in giving back to the society, and we train our students towards fulfilling their corporate social responsibility when they join as managers in the organizations. So some of the training sessions which we have for the students are in the form of road safety campaign. We have plantation drive, and there are other activities also wherein they are involved socially for the benefit of the society. The two important projects wherein our students have showcased their talent are Drishti and Tessa, wherein they have converted the rural women as entrepreneurs. The disadvantaged section of the society was converted into entrepreneurs with the training which is given to them. So there is a big role of the faculty as well as the students in doing this. So DYPUSM is a pioneer in doing this. The success of any institution is basically dependent on the placements which our students get. So I'm proud to say that our students have reached success. So best example which I can show here is in the current pandemic too, our students have got a package of around 8 lakhs per annum. And the best example which I can quote here is Sutherland. Our recruiters, as already mentioned earlier, we have MBA in Marketing, Finance, HR, and so on, which comes under core management programs. So the students of these courses were taken up by PepsiCo, Voltas, Lenovo, Godrej, IDFC, Raymond, Tech Mahindra, Amazon, Mahindra Finance, Policy Bazaar, Marico, Future Group, and many more. The students of banking and insurance sector are recruited with S-Bank, IDBI Bank, State Bank of India, ICICI Bank, Bank of India, Axis Bank, Dhanalakshmi Bank, and many more. The health and hospital sector is an area which is taken up by the students who are basically the graduates in health and hospital sector itself. So some of the hospitals which have, some of the recruiters who have come from different hospitals in Mumbai are Apollo Hospitals, Fortis, Seven Hills Hospital, Sefi Hospital, Hinduja Hospital, our own D.Y. Patil Hospital, Navi Mumbai, Kohinoor Hospital, and many more. As you are aware, we are running a series of webinars this year, which started already in the year 2020. And we are continuing the same tradition. This year, it is called as Leadership Series, whereas it was called as Knowledge Series in the last year. So next week also, we are having a webinar on healthcare transformation, opportunities and challenges. So the poster of the same is there in front of you. If you want to participate in this, the link is also given here. So you can use this link and register yourself for the webinar. And we expect all of you to participate in this webinar too, because this is also going to be an interesting webinar. Because we have people from the industry talking about the healthcare sector and how the healthcare sector has transformed over the years. Our students are our customers. So we believe in this statement, and student delightedness is something which is our mission and which is our vision. So with this, I would like to share you that BBA has various courses which are mentioned here, which are in the category of marketing management, finance management, international business management, banking, insurance, and hospital administration. So if any one of you are interested in taking the admission, that you can contact the people whose contact numbers are given here. We also have MBA, and as I mentioned earlier, that we have MBA in core management and sectoral management. So you can contact the people for the admissions. Thank you so much. Over to you, Sapna.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vani. I would now like to introduce to you Professor Dr. R. Gopal. Professor Dr. R. Gopal is basically an engineer from IIT Kharagpur in mechanical engineering. Subsequently, he did his MBA, ICWA, PhD in postdoctoral research. Presently, Dr. R. Gopal is Director HOD and former Dean of D.Y. Patil Deemed to be University School of Management. He has more than 27 years of corporate experience at Bush India Limited, Larsen & Toubro, Tata Economic Consultancy Services, and Siemens. Additionally, he has more than 30 years of teaching experience in various B schools in and around Mumbai in the areas of marketing, finance, and general management, etc. He was also visiting faculty in several B schools in USA. In USA, he has conducted several programs on topics like how to do business in India. He has also published more than 200 research papers, both in Indian and foreign journals. He has been awarded the Best Outstanding Research Paper at the Asia Pacific Marketing Conference held in Malaysia. He is also a reviewer to several international journals, having a high impact factor. He is well conversant with the rules of AICT as well as the UGC rules, also the new Education Policy 2020. He is a guide to MPhil and PhD students of several universities in India. More than 100 research scholars have received their PhD and MPhil degree under his guidance. He is also the author of several books and is the chief editor to several national and international journals of Britain. Additionally, he has written several books on management, which have been highly received by student and corporate community. Some of the books that he has published are Marketing Strategy and Applications under Himalaya Publishing House, Case Studies in Business and Industry Management, Indian Context, Himalaya Publishing House. Few books are under print, which is Research Methodology, Marketing Finance. He has successfully conducted several webinars on the topics like Impact Studies due to COVID-19, National Education Policy 2020, Career Development, etc. He has also conducted many national and international conferences. The latest has been on the theme Make for Bharat Go Global. Professor Dr. R. Gopal is recipient of many awards. To name a few, is Rashtravidya Saraswati Puraskar awarded by International Institute of Education and Management, Rashtra Vikas Ratna Award awarded by Economic Growth Society of India. Glory of India Award awarded by Indo-British Society London. Rajiv Gandhi Education Excellence Award. Best Teacher Award awarded by Higher Education Forum. Best Management Teacher Award in Management Education by MTC Global and Knowledge Cafe. Educationalist Award by National and International Compodium, New Delhi. Star of Asia Award and many, many more. Recently, MSME Chamber of Commerce and Industry of India, New Delhi has declared Professor Dr. R. Gopal as a Corona Warrior. His motto is to transform every student into an achiever so that every student will create a success story. I welcome you, Professor Dr. R. Gopal. I would request Professor Dr. R. Gopal to kindly address the participants.
Thank you, Sapna, for the wonderful introduction and very lengthy one that you talked about. I don't think I really deserve all that. Okay, thank you very much for having said these things. Said these nice things about me, and that too early in the morning on a Saturday. For me, it's morning, and for you, it's evening. So, good morning, Sapna. Good morning, Rashmi, Pani, Argya Bandal, Arnab Mandal, Nisha Shetty, Sahili, and my two students, Janvi and Sneha, who are here. A very good morning to you or good evening to all of you. Today, I'm elated to be a part of this webinar because of two very important things. One is the topic itself is very interesting. What are the future trends? Because I personally believe that whether you like it or not, people are the core. And therefore, when you talk about future trends and all this, this is something which is very interesting. And on the second part, while I'm very happy because I think the stars have been good to us. And why do I say that? Because Corona wave 2, COVID-19 wave 2 is ebbing. However, this does not mean that we can be complacent and relaxing. We cannot afford to lose our guard like the way we did it after wave 1. We need to have appropriate behavior and we need to vaccinate ourselves. Wave 2 had taken a very, very big hit on the Indian economy. The GDP for FY21, that is 2021, dropped drastically and for the first time in the Indian history, contracted to about minus 7.3%. FY22, that is 2021, 2022, it is expected to rise to about 8%. Some economists have been talking about 9.5% to 10%. Wave 1 and wave 2 have created a huge havoc on all of us. Stresses have developed. Recession has been there. Unemployment, work from home, all this has been part of the scenario for the last 1.5 to 2 years. There have been several disruptions, both in the manufacturing sector and the service sector, and unemployment seems to be increasing rapidly. Wave 2 brought also with it a huge amount of problems. Several deaths have taken place. I don't want to give you the figures for all of that. There were several oxygen shortages, ICU shortages, ventilator shortages, doctor shortages, ICU bed shortages, hospital shortages, vaccination doses shortages, etc., etc. The pharma industry, and the health industry, which were known as the global suppliers of the world, for the first time became a net importer. And we had to go begging. I use the word begging in a very, very broad sense. Do not take it in a narrow sense that we went begging. But I would like to say that we went and requested everybody all over the world to give us the vaccination, to give us the drugs that we required. By December 2021, the government expects around 216 crore vaccines to be available, and this would be sufficient to vaccinate about 90% of the targeted population. experts are also talking about wave 3. And some of them are saying by July, end August, some of them are saying September. The government has said by September, October, wave 3 could hit us, but may not hit us so badly as wave 2. And new variants like the Delta variants have already come in and which is hitting us very badly. But the nice part of the whole thing is that the pharma industry and the biotech industry have risen to the occasion. And they have come up with a new 2G drug, 2-deoxy-D-glucose. They also come up with a new drug, which is a mixture, a cocktail as they called it, between casivimab 1 and indovimab 1, which helps in neutralizing the monoclonal antibiotics or the MABs, and is supposed to be a cure for COVID-19. New vaccines are being developed, like the Zycov-D and the other vaccines, many of them which are on the trial, on the clinical trial, and awaiting government approval. Turning ourselves internally, what did we do? Last year in 2020, as mentioned by Dr. Vani Kamath, we started a new webinar series called as the Knowledge Series. And the idea of this knowledge series was essentially to impart knowledge to the various stakeholders of ours. And that's what higher education institutions like us are supposed to do. We are supposed to transfer knowledge to the various stakeholders. And that's what we did in the last year, April 2020 till about May 2021. And in this area, we conducted about 45 webinars on various topics. My colleague this morning, Dr. Vani Kamath and Dr. Rashmi Shirit, both talked about our School of Management, the courses, the facilities, etc. As the director of the institute and the head of the institute department and the former dean, I want to lay down certain things which we have done, so that it becomes a fundamental, movement forward. And what did we do? On the pedagogy aspect, we have modified our syllabus to include the new age subjects, which are very much important for Industry 4.0, and that is data analytics, digital marketing, AI, etc., etc. I've been talking to many of the students from various other, colleges, both pan-India as well as in Mumbai area. And I find that many of the students have been complaining that the lectures are boring. Many of them have been saying that the faculties deliver lectures which are already there in the various digital sites. But there is a difference in what we do. And what is the difference? The difference is that our faculties tend to, and we've been successful to a large extent in making the entire teaching learning process more interesting and more fun-loving. We, in fact, encourage students to ask questions. We try to stimulate the inquisitiveness which every student has. We tell them how to solve problems. We give them some guidance in the problem-solving techniques that are used in developing. We also help them through the counseling processes that we have in ensuring emotional stability. And this has become a very, very important thing, because especially during the pandemic, the stress levels, if I were to say that the stress levels was 100 in the case of the faculties, the management and all others, in the case of the students, it jumped up to 120, 130. And therefore it was necessary for us to bring about a certain amount of emotional stability, tell them how to overcome all these stresses, etc. And for which we had a large number of counseling sessions. And as part of these activities, we also conducted several sports and cultural activities, albeit virtually. And Dr. Vani Kamath talked about our recruiters. Every year we get about almost 200 corporates visiting us. We name the corporate and they are with us. Big, small, and the medium size. Last year, the pandemic brought about a reduction in them, understandably. The number of corporates who came up to our School of Management dropped from about 200, 250 to about 150, 160. That was quite understandable because of the recession that was going on and the work from home techniques that were going on, etc., etc. We also did something which was very, very important so that our students get the benefit. And what was that? We have signed MOUs, as Dr. Vani Kamath mentioned, and Dr. Sapna Suri also mentioned that. We signed MOUs with organizations like WTC, IMC, MSME Chamber of Commerce and Industry, New Delhi, Maharashtra Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture, Global TV, Global Exports, etc., etc. We also signed MOUs with different colleges because we believe that as a university and as a school of repute and being in the top leadership position in the entire education industry, our job is to also bring about changes in the other colleges which are there. And therefore, we've signed a couple of MOUs with different colleges of Mumbai University as well as with other universities pan-India. The objective of these MOUs, especially with the industry bodies, is to bring about industry-institute interaction. And these MOUs have actually helped us in our placement. It may not be out of place to mention that even during the pandemic year, 60 to 70% of our students have got placed. And many of the students have already joined the various organizations with a minimum salary of about 4.5 lakhs, average salary about 5.2 lakhs, and a maximum salary of about 8 lakhs per annum. The ROI is very high in the case of these students. However, like all other industries, our school also took a hit. And what was the hit that we took? Some of the students who have received offers from the various corporates were told not to join, or were politely told that we will look at you next year, or some such statements were made. We then immediately contacted all these organizations with whom we have signed the MOUs. We also talked to our alumni because we have a very good, strong alumni base. And our placement team helped the students get new job offers, which was very interesting. Why did we do all this? We have done all this mainly because we believe that the students are the center. A nation, if it has to grow, has to have highly educated people. We cannot have unemployment the way it's going today. As I understand from CMIE database, the unemployment figures are something like about 11.9% in the last month, up from the previous 2 months, that is from 8% to about 11.9 or 12%, which is extremely high. Our objective has always been to make the students employable. And my own personal goal has been that every student of mine has to be a success story in life. And believe me, guys, I will do everything possible. I and my team of faculties and the management of DYPSM will do everything possible to make all of you a success stories. Since May 2021, as I mentioned earlier, we started a new series of webinars called the Leadership Series. And this is the ninth webinar that we are having as part of this leadership series. The first one was on the beginner's guide to stock market, followed by wealth management and taxation. But then money alone does not make you happy. You need many, many things to be happy. And therefore we said, let's have an opportunity, or let's have a webinar on finding happiness, which was very well received. Our stakeholders requested us to have a couple of industry-based webinars also. And to that extent, therefore, we had a webinar on pharma sector, which was very, very well received. The government of India, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, Narendra Modi ji, has rightly said that we need to increase our employment. And what he said was, he said employment does not come all by itself. We need to develop skill sets. And to that extent, again, as institutes of higher learning, we felt that digital learning, digital marketing, etc., are going to be the next level of business. And as part of the digital learning, content writing, which is going to be the key, would be the main area. And therefore, to that extent, we had a webinar on content writing. If you really look at wave 2, and there are so many deaths and so many shortages, half of them could be because of supply chain and logistic problems. Supply chain, logistics, warehousing are one of the high growth areas. And to that extent, therefore, we had a webinar on supply chain and logistics. As I mentioned earlier, we had a webinar on life skills. And the reason for that I mentioned a few minutes ago. A lot of requests also came, as I said, for webinars related to the industry sectors. And therefore we had a webinar on banking and insurance, because my own study, which I did in April 2020, told me that the banking sector would be one sector, banking and insurance and financial sector would be one sector which would be growing very, very rapidly. And if our goal is to become a 5 trillion economy, then the banking sector, the insurance sector, and the financial sector will have to play a major role. And I'm quite sure. And in fact, I'm very optimistic and very positive that the dream of our Honorable Prime Minister of having a 5 trillion economy would be fulfilled, perhaps not by 2024, but maybe 1 or 2 years later because of the pandemic. In line with the request of many stakeholders, we had another webinar, which was essentially on future shape of industries, scope and opportunities. The stakeholders told us that, sir, we would like to know in which direction the industries will move. And which are the high growth sectors of the industry. And therefore, we had a very interesting webinar last Saturday. As a natural outflow of that, because I, for one, believe that people are the key. And in any organization, HR becomes a key, because HR is the one which bonds everybody together through its policies. And believe me, I personally believe that HR can make or break any organization. And as somebody mentioned, if a student leaves or if an employee leaves, it's not because the organization is bad. but because it's the boss of that particular person who's bad. And who's responsible for that? It's the HR, because he's not been able to groom those guys properly, and made perhaps a wrong person with the wrong competencies as the boss. I don't know. And this is my personal feeling. Maybe I'm wrong. And therefore, I always bow down to the wishes of our stakeholders. And when they said that they want to know something about the future trends in HR, which directions they're going in, which is a fallout of the previous seminar that we had, we said, let's look at it and say, okay, what is it that we require in the HR? And therefore, we have today's seminar or today's webinar, which talks about rethinking HR practices 2021 and beyond. And it's very important. And why is it important? And it's important because the businesses have changed. The old method of doing business has undergone a lot of changes. New industries are seeing a big growth. For example, you're suddenly seeing a high growth in renewable energy, like the solar system, like the solar energy. Environmental friendly manufacturing processes, like the organic manufacturing, green manufacturing, is taking a big jump. The communication, because we already have work from home, and I'm quite sure that whether we like it or not, the work from home practice will continue for the next 4 to 5 years, at least, in my mind. And for which you would need not 4G, but 5G. Maybe in the next 2 years, as the telecoms guys tell me that they're working on a 6G. God, I don't know, 6G, 7G, what G, I don't know. But all these Gs, the 5G plus Gs will be coming up, and that would call for a new benchmark which would take place. Internet of Things, nanotechnology. I mean, you already see nano satellites, blockchain, digital methods. These are something which are growing. As I mentioned, healthcare, pharma, they're already seeing a double, triple, growth and I see that growth growing very rapidly because pandemics like the COVID-19 have been there in the past. If you go back almost a couple of decades back, you had the Spanish flu and these smallpoxes which came up, and then you had the SARS and et cetera, et cetera. So every 5 years, every 7 years, we see one or another pandemic. And when there is a pandemic, you need the pharma will grow, the healthcare will grow. And therefore, I see a very big growth in these two sectors also. And corresponding to all of this, the HR needs will also change. HR has to consider future-ready organizations. It has to filter information, faster processing. Organization structures, we are already talking of flatter organization, but maybe perhaps the need has come to talk about a more flatter organization. Recruiting talent is something which is going to be a key area because talent is short. Even today, if I were to simply look at the IT department, the talent which is required in digital, AI, robotics is all in short supply. And each of these guys think differently, may not be in sync with the corporate culture, corporate value systems. But you need to mold all of these guys so that they are also in sync with the corporate culture, because corporate culture, corporate value systems are something which I think, and I firmly believe, is the root for any organizational success. Additionally, I see a lot of politics also taking place. And I believe that there has to be, the HR has to play the role of Lord Krishna, of the Mahabharata, not Lord Rama. Because Lord Rama was an idealistic person, but Lord Krishna was a man who would take us through these ages. And what did he do? He was a master strategist. He was a master politician. He devised policies and he ensured that it got implemented. And implementation is the key if you really want to succeed. And this is where I personally feel the HR department has to work. And this is where I see the future trend for HR taking place. And I say, rethinking of HR 2021 and beyond. What do I mean? I'm talking about future, and the future is there, and the future is having correct cultures, correct values, which are compatible with the social needs. Having policies in place which would help you grow, taking care of the human needs which are there, ensuring that happiness is spread, because we are at the bottommost of the happiness list among all the countries in the world. So we have to ensure that we are somewhere on top, maybe like Sweden or Denmark. That should be the target, because these countries are probably on the highest level. And for which you should know how to play politics, because politics is ingrained in us. Our parents play politics with us. We as parents play politics with our children. We as directors, deans, faculties, to teaching, non-teaching staff, and all the others play politics with one another. And we need to manage all of this. And the load of management comes on the HR department, whether you like it or not, because they are supposed to set the policies. They are supposed to set the implementation and how to go about, at least at the macro level, where the micro level will be set up by the operating units, but the macro level implementation of the various policies has to come from the HR department. And to understand all of this, we have a very, very important webinar today. As I said, Rethinking HR Practices in 2021 and beyond, and for which we have a very, solid, interesting, and who's who of the HR field, namely Mr. Arigya Mandal, Ms. Neha Narale, Ms. Neha Hariharan, and Mr. Arnab Mandal. I welcome all these speakers, and I look forward to a very, very interesting, discussion on the future trends. And I must thank you for having shared your valuable time. I know your time is so special, and that too at 6 o'clock in the evening, if I were to call you when the day is almost over. But I thank you very much. I also take this opportunity to welcome and thank our faculties, Dr. Vani Kama, Dr. Sapna Suri, Dr. Rashmi. And I also see some alumni like Nishi and some of my students like Janvi and Sneha. I welcome them all. I understand from Dr. Priya Viz, our IT head and IT specialist, that we have received more than about 600 to 700 registrations. And I would therefore request all those viewers to kindly put their queries in the chat box, and we would definitely answer all of them. And finally, before I end, I would request all eligible stakeholders, all of them, excuse me for a minute. The students, the parents, my colleagues, to please get yourselves vaccinated. Please vaccinate, and follow the COVID appropriate behavior. We need to do this, and we can do this. And if we do this, I'm quite confident that no wave 3 or wave 4 or any Delta variant can ever attack us. Thank you, and God bless all of you. Thank you very much for patient listening. God bless you. Sapna.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. R. Gopal, for your valuable thoughts. I would now like to introduce to you Dr. Rashmi Shirit. Dr. Rashmi Shirit is presently working as an associate professor with DY Patil Deemed to be University School of Management, Navi Mumbai. She has an experience of over 16 years in the field of education. She has a dual specialization in marketing and HRM, and with certifications of entrepreneurship educator course from IMB and STVP Stanford Venture Program and EEDC Entrepreneur Educator Development course from Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. She has a doctoral degree in management and entrepreneurship from DY Patil Deemed to be University. She has received an award for Emerging Entrepreneur Educator from Government of India, Wadhwani Foundation, British Council, and NEN. She has also been a recipient of Innovative Pedagogy Award from HEF Higher Education Forum and also been conferred with Social Leadership Award from Mahindra Rice. Dr. Rashmi has several research papers in her kitty, and she has also case study and co-authored a book on entrepreneurship to her credit. She believes that teaching is her passion, and she has also been fortunate to work on multiple funded and sponsored projects with organizations like Marvin, MPEDA, Marine Product Export Development Authority, and UNDP, etc. Presently, along with teaching, she is also a research guide for doctoral program for DY Patil Deemed to be University School of Management. I welcome you, Dr. Rashmi. I would request Dr. Rashmi to kindly address the participants.
Thank you, Dr. Sapna, for the kind words which you've shared. Very good evening to everyone who's been attending over the YouTube and, who's giving us time to listen out to this very interesting topic. To start with, I would like to place the quote of Charles Darwin, who said that it's not the strongest of species that survives, neither the most intelligent species survives. It's basically the one who's most adaptable to change is the one who survives. So this is a learning which most of us probably have experienced in the last 1.5 year span of time. It's been a very exceptionally different year, especially if you think from a professional perspective, those who are, being professionals and those who have been aspiring professionals, with the remote work from home coming in, as well as a lot of revamping of structure, leadership performances, and other metrics is, changing. HR has been one of those navigators in most of the organizations who've been trying to balance out the expectations of the organization as well as the expectations of the individuals. And that's the reason why, as an institute, we felt that this topic holds very relevant. And who better to address this, because those who have shunned and those who have experienced and those who have been stars in the market, those who have actually managed it on the floor. I welcome my industry keynote speakers for this session. We've segmented the entire webinar into 4 parts. All 4 are hands-on experienced guys, and they have their own functional area which they're handling with respect to HR and with respect to their organization. We're not going to discuss any organization out over here. The keynote speakers would be addressing a general approach of what is happening in most of the organization and how HR has, intervened to bring in a lot of behavioral changes, a lot of digital platforms which have been, introduced, a lot of leadership skill sets which have come in. With that, I really wish to not take any longer time and wish Dr. Sapna to come back and introduce the esteemed panel of members who are going to take this across and be sharing information to the crowd. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rashmi, for your thoughts. I would now like to introduce to you our first speaker for the day, Mrs. Nisha Shetty Narale. She's a seasoned HR professional with a versatile career of 14 plus years of experience spanning across industries like manufacturing, pharmaceutical, and FMCG, and has a deep experience with a wide range of verticals with HR. A result oriented and a self motivated HR professional who brings hands on experience in developing and delivering HR strategy in diverse setups. Currently, she's working as a director HR Cipla Health Limited. I welcome you, Ms. Nisha. I would request Mrs. Nisha to kindly address the participants.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this quick introduction, and thank you so much for having me on this webinar. So what I'll quickly do is I'll be presenting my slides and taking you all through quick industry trends that we see in HR practices, which are very different from our traditional ways of working, and a few glimpses of what are the trends, how it has changed, and what are some of the ongoing challenges. So I'll be quickly sharing my slide. Yeah. So to start with, what has changed for us, during this pandemic? So I'll go back, I'll reverse back a year and talk about year 2020. So I'll be talking about the four main categories out here. One is in terms of what's been the global impact. So when it started for us somewhere in month of March 2020, where this lockdown started for us, we were quite uncertain. We didn't know how long this is going to, be. So we all thought it will be like 3-4 months. So we didn't know offices were to be shut down. We didn't know how to incorporate this sudden change. Businesses had to be closed for a few days. There was a strict lockdown altogether. So we didn't know how long this pandemic is going to, go on, and that led to uncertainty in terms of, overall working styles, working models, business models, etc. And so we didn't have any trends to follow here as such. So everything was organization specific, and everything was people led decisions. So globally it was impacted. Then coming back to health, mental health has been been the topic across, and we've all been talking about it, how the mental health has been impacted across. We keep seeing the number of deaths that are happening, and our near and dear ones being affected by COVID, etc. So there's a lot of mental health being spoken about now, and yes, that's been impacted because of this operating models. So reset of business priorities is what we spoke about in terms of what are different kinds of operating models that have been we've been seeing across. And also in terms of different businesses different businesses starting off their whether it's starting off different models basically, and to sustain, and that was some of the things that came onto my mind. And lastly was the working style. So we never imagined the work from home kind of environment that started for us. So if you ask me 1 year down the line, do you ever imagine this working styles to be started? I mean, I didn't know whether this work from home started off along or not. Yeah. Then I'll be taking you through some key insights in terms of how the trends have moved for us. I would say that it's time for us to reset and time to recover. Sorry, there's been some issue in terms of internet. sorry, there's some internet issue at my end, so I had to quickly. Yeah.
Would you like to switch off your camera?
So, talking about how the year has gone by, and if we quickly, take a second, try in case if there's an interruption, I'll probably switch it off. Yeah. So, in terms of some of the highlights that I would take is one, in of working versus the work from home kind of model. That was something different that we never imagined. Yeah. Then comes, change in the traditional processes, like we spoke about onboarding process, induction process. Did we ever imagine, having a digital kind of onboarding for our employees, and in terms of policies, processes, how is it that we're going to manage it offline and not, working from our functional offices? So there's a complete digital way of interactions and in-person interactions, digital way, which is now replaced by, in-personal interactions. It's a new digital journey that I would call, and I would in fact say it's a good thing that has happened now, that organizations are moving towards automating their process and having the digital thing built in. So I wouldn't say it was absent from the Indian markets, but yeah, it is now. So now we don't have a choice. It's more like you have to have some platforms which are digitized. Yeah. Third is talking about focus on employees' mental health that I spoke about, and how do we ensure that overall employees' well-being and psychological safety is maintained. So this is again one of the major trends that we see. And talking about different processes, talking about different policies. So now it's the time where we focus on the right balance between what are the processes that are required to ensure business results. That is, we are now moving business forward in terms of what are some of the processes and policies that you have in place which will support the overall business growth. Yeah. Then comes the most important one is, we all are dealing with uncertainty. So how is it that we ensure that our employees are, upskilled in terms of the talent level? That is what is expected. So more and more, investment is done in terms of learning and development of employees. So training is coming as an emerging need. It has always been one, but this pandemic has pushed us to have more platforms for learning interventions. Then comes focus on recognizing employees. So we all had rewards and recognition programs in place. Now it's again replaced by digital platforms for rewarding and recognizing your employees. And the need has been even more, where we have to constantly keep checking how our employees' morale is, how an employee is feeling offline, because we don't have a face-to-face interaction with them. So rewards and recognition has definitely been again a prime focus for us for year 2021, and during this pandemic it's even more important. Then comes, we had our traditional processes, policies in the system, but this pandemic has forced us to have personalized employee experience. Just giving an example in terms of, rewards and recognition. So we all used to have a gala night dinner where, you have a nice place booked and you have like 150, 200 people coming in, management staff coming in, giving a nice talk, and, we have the employee list that has been displayed on the system, etc. But now we've tweaked it in a way where you see all this being digitized. So you will see an online auditorium, and you'll be wearing a t-shirt and facing the camera, and suddenly a doorbell rings in and you have a pizza, and you have a beverage at yours, and where you will celebrate the rewards and recognition programs online. So this is kind of interface where we as human resource professionals have so we've tried and experimented with this, and we said this is the best thing that we could do in this ongoing pandemic. So nothing has stopped for us, I would say, but alterations and changes have been done in the traditional approach, and there are new ideas which are anyways welcome. And lastly, in terms of many organizations have moved towards tailoring employee benefits. So we've moved to new kind of leaves where, most organizations are covering employees in terms of medical claim benefits that they have. Then they have introduced a special kind of leave called COVID care leave for the employees, and giving them some financial assistance in terms of any COVID care relief which is given to an employee. So these are all benefits that have been altered to ensure employee morale is high, and employee is recognized, and ultimately we are maximizing the business productivity by ensuring your entire organization is going on the right track. These are some of the trends that I foresee. So if you ask me how is it different from the traditional practices, is the foundation remains the same. Whatever the students have learned in their academics and whatever theories that we've learned, face to it, new avatar to it in terms of digitalizing it, and different ideas to ensure that our traditional value of what an HR brings to organizations remains intact. Yeah. So having seen these different trends, there are some challenges as well. Sorry, I'm not able to move on. Yeah. So there are some ongoing challenges that I foresee, which will still be ongoing, and these are not something which are new because of pandemic. This could be an ongoing challenge, but the gravity would have increased because of the pandemic. Yeah. First comes the employee pulse, which is very important for an HR professional. How do you ensure that the employee pulse of organization is good? So anything what is going wrong earlier it used to be easier for us in terms of talking to employees, having an on corridor conversations, over the coffee conversations, lunch with colleagues, etc. Now it's more structured in terms of having online platforms and online interactions on Teams, etc. So it's a bit, I wouldn't say it's not possible. We've always had a digital face to it, but having such informal conversations, there is some challenge, and sensing something very early could be an ongoing challenge for us. In this digital world, we still to crack what the right trends. We don't have anything global about this topic, but yeah, as professionals, yeah, we'll try different models to work on it. Then comes broader focus. So efficiency is something that we've always focused, but this pandemic, it's not all about efficiency. It's about empathy, resilience, and how do you empower your people to ensure they take responsibility and get the work going on. I also spoke about different processes that needs to be made to ensure business sustainability is there. And so here, now it's not only about efficiency. Yeah, business sustenance is important, but overall, how are you empowering people, and how is the overall health of the organization is also important for during this ongoing pandemic. Then comes digital investments. Investments on digital platforms. So we are talking about a lot of digital platforms being introduced, but so it's not that easy where you have to automate each and every process. It requires a huge investment, and it also, for the flow of digital platforms to get in sync and to look nice, you also need some history data that needs to be inputted in the system. So there's a lot of man days work that goes into building an online platform as well, and also the flow to work. So there are a lot of investment that goes in. So this would still be a challenge. Focusing your revenues on digital platforms would be an ongoing challenge for us. Then comes work-life balance. So we all know the new normal where we are working from home. A lot of companies, they say, have experimented starting off, 2 days a week, 3 days a week kind of thing. But ultimately, employee safety is again a prime focus for us. So we've tried and seen that how can employee detach their home from office and their personal life from the official working hours. Now employees don't have a specific work schedules. On one hand, it's good that employees have flexibility to manage the overall working hours, and other side the number of the business sustainability is on the other side, and the long working hours is on the other side that is needed. So how do we have that right balance? Again, still remains a challenge. And lastly, talking about how do we retain talent, so retaining talent is obviously been an ongoing challenge for all the HR professionals. But in this pandemic, we don't see any trends as such, where we are losing talent to, what's happening, to keep a tab on, what are the employee interests, or what are the aspirations that they have, has always been a challenge. But due to this pandemic, it's aggravated because we don't know how the employees are overall going to get impacted. So there are a lot of relocation cases that come in. There are a lot of employees who are moving out to their hometowns, etc. And family has suddenly come as a prime focus, taking care of the parents, etc., moving on to different locations. So how do you maintain, for a mid-sized organization, maintaining that mobility, etc., becomes a challenge. And hence, this is one of the examples that I'm just citing. And hence I'm saying retaining talent would be another, challenge that we have on plate. And lastly, the organization culture. So, you have a lot of topics that are emerging. One is in terms of how do you ensure that, employees' interests and employee values, etc., are safeguarded, and how is it that inclusion and belonging we weave into this entire organization thing, and how do you ensure the organization culture still remains? So there would have been a major shift in organizational cultures as well, because suddenly the business sustenance has come into picture. Suddenly the employee health and wellness has come into picture. So a lot of other priorities that come in place. So there have been questions in terms of flexibility versus authority. What is it that we need to choose? So at an overall level, I would try to summarize and say that, human resource professionals, we've always, heard a lot of theories where we talk HR plays a very important role, because ultimately it's HR's role to ensure that they're collaborating against different functions. And, it's trying to maintain a balance between your business processes versus that of human emotions and human touch. How do you, marry these two? And lastly, ensure that business focus remains. So HR is moving from a traditional and operational way and to more onto a strategic note. So that's the shift that we are seeing in the year 2021 is really good. And I feel this is the year where HR professionals really need to test and show that how important an HR plays into building up organization. So this is what I would like to sum up, and a note which I would like to give it to students is that whatever you've learned in the institutes, that remains as is. And it's since the change is anyways uncertain, we are welcoming new ideas, new ideas coming onto the table from young freshers like you all. And that's why you see a lot of trend where where we hire people from B schools, etc., to get that fresh mindset onto the table. Yeah. So this is what I would like to sum it up, and I'm sure I have my colleagues who will be taking you in depth in terms of talent acquisition, learning and development, and how HR analytics has played a key role. So all these topics would be touched upon by my colleagues. Thank you so much, team. Over to you, Arnab. Yeah, Dr. Rashmi.
Sharing your screen.
Yeah, I'll just.
All right. Can I go ahead and share my screen?
Thank you so much, Mrs. Nisha, for your valuable thoughts on rethinking HR and the new dimension to it. I would now like to introduce to you Mr. Orgio Mandal. He's an Astute Global Talent Leader with 12 years of strategic talent and HR business partnering exposure in American MNC companies. Mr. Mandal is presently heading the talent acquisition and management position with the Momentive erstwhile GE Silicon and Western Automotive System. A self-driven, result-oriented individual with an excellent people management and communication skills. I welcome you, Mr. Orgio Mandal. I would request Mr. Orgio Mandal to kindly address the participants.
Sure. Well, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for the pleasant introduction. I will attempt to share my screen right now. I must say, even before I begin, the first couple of speakers, the esteemed professors, they actually, what they spoke about, it really is very heartwarming. It took me back to my college days. is pretty nostalgic. So thanks for having all of us here. I'm especially very excited to try and share how we are trying to rethink HR practices in 2021 and beyond. Neha has already touched upon traditionally what we were doing pre-pandemic. So I'm not going to gloss. I'm actually going to gloss over most of what we have on this page. Traditionally, we have been a support function, and we have been trying to be an enabler to the businesses, right? But today, as we look at a couple of studies which industry really relates to, there has been a dynamic shift in not just the pandemic, but even the demographics, right? Companies are not just made of manufacturing plants and all the systems and processes. People who really can make a company work is people like you and me, human beings, professionals. And as we know, if you look at the demographics, especially in the subcontinent, as HR professionals, as aspiring HR professionals, some of you on the call perhaps, you need to really recognize that your future work demographics are certainly going to take a paradigm shift. There are going to be huge number of millennials which are going to form the backbone of what you do, not too far away from now. I mean, almost 40 to 50% of our workforce will be represented by 2025 by millennials. So it's but natural for us to take a very macroscopic view at how the workplace dynamics are going to change and try and align, because if we do not do that, we will be caught out. Today, the attention span of people is extremely low, and we are usually hooked on more to our phones and other devices than anything else. So if we really do not pay attention, how can we really attract and retain talent? So let's try and take a look at how things have changed. The pandemic has really just been a great catalyst in propelling this change, right? So what can you expect with the new age workforce? First of all, do realize and recognize that you are part of all the aspiring students are actually going to be part of this. So what we believe on multitudes of studies is the new generation, the Generation Y, really wants to be empowered. And they rightfully want to seek challenges. No longer are the days when they will just look up to their bosses, they'll look up to the managers and wonder, okay, when am I going to give the next particular workforce or next particular work stream to work upon? Or this is my job description, I'm going to try and stick to that. No, today's generation, they are fast. They really, really want to be empowered. They want to be in the driver's seat. They have a huge appetite for learning and challenging themselves. Secondly, despite the fact that all of us are working from home predominantly, or at least we are trying to work in our silos, trying to be safe, we are after all human beings. We are a social animal, and teamwork and collaboration in this digital age of work is extremely important. So as HRs, please do try to ideate on how you can create a collaborative, a very synergetic work approach which recognizes each and every employee, each and every team, and their contribution to the organization and to the community at large. In today's world, of course, we want feedback, as much feedback as possible, as much comments as possible. You would see anybody and everybody trying to gather feedback and also try and concentrate on feed forward. Why feed forward? It might be a new jargon for all of us here, or some of us here at least, but feedback is good, right? Because you get to see what could have transpired well or what could have gone better and try and improve. Yes, that's what we have been doing for donkey's years altogether. But feed forward rather picks on these learnings and tries to chalk through a clear runway on how we can improve ourselves in the future, because future is changeable. So people who, the Gen Y, the millennials of today, they want more and more feedback, continuous feedback. Today, most of the large companies, they have performance development cycles, which run pretty much throughout the year. They have critical timelines for having their employee touch points, but even beyond that, most of the HRs, most of the talent managers out there are recognizing that performance conversations is a continuous process, and feedback is important, but feed forward even more so. Another thing to really play upon, which you should keep in your mind, is each and every employee today, they might be just youngsters joining the industry, they really want to be their driver's seat when it comes to their own development, and they are learning workers. The industry has responded brilliantly. They have their own academic courses. They have their own universities or learning platforms themselves, and beyond which I can probably name only few organizations who are not hooked on to LinkedIn Learning. Sponsoring, coaching, mentoring, all of this really goes hand in hand to create learning workers. Remember, if you have just a worker, if you have just an employee who's just working and they are not learning, they are also possibly trying to see how some other company can add value to them. So if you want to really keep your employees engaged and focused, you need to create that learning atmosphere, that learning ecosystem. And always be cognizant of the fact that in today's world, gone are those days from a generation or two back when people used to enter an organization only to retire out of it. Those kind of organizations and cultures still do exist in most of the eastern part of the world, but here in India, where everything is so dynamic, on the subcontinent really, where things are so dynamic, we cannot always take loyalty for granted, right? Today, here now, we have a huge bedrock of great thinkers who are coming up with startups, or someone of you actually can invest in your own startup too, or join a startup perhaps, who provide plethora of opportunities for you to express, learn, and grow. So please, even if you're a large company, even if you become part of a large company, just as Nisha really said, we need to try and ideate as HR. How can we provide platforms for blue sky thinking so that each and every function, each and every employee feels satiated that, well, my potential is getting translated into something tangible over time. So quickly moving on, I mean, as you can see from whatever Nisha has shared earlier, whatever Sir had shared earlier, HR is transforming and transforming very rapidly from a very transactional, from a very enabling function to a transformational function. How so? Let's take a quick deep dive into it. Just a quick example of how things have really changed. You would imagine help desks, right? In a working environment where employees would walk up to, and they would probably have a HR over there who has all the policies, all the knowledge to give appropriate answers to any questions that they have from anybody. Long gone now. We also, the industry also came up with the subject of having help desk, which is for a ticketing tool like ServiceNow, for example. You drop in a ticket if you have any questions pertaining to HR or the organization, and somebody will pick up that ticket, look at the priority, and respond back. Gone are the days. Why so? Nisha talked about it, work-life balance. To us, it's more work-life integration, because today, here now, we are surrounded by our family members, pets, kids, neighbors, everybody. So it's very, very important for us to really try and pick our own working hours and what best works for us. And in this day and age of work-life integration, you may choose to work a little bit in the morning, a little bit more in the afternoon, and perhaps really load yourself with your evening calls. If you're working for a US MNC like mine, in those cases, you cannot have the concept of help desk. You cannot have questions being asked and it being replied on the basis of a TAT, on the basis of a ticket which you have opened. You need answers today, here, right now, because that might be intervening in your work, perhaps, or intervening, playing on your minds. And if you really want to stay, absolutely up to date, you want those answers right now. This is a very, very easier example. We were chatting with Dr. Gopal a little while earlier before logging in, and he talked about Internet of Things and artificial intelligence. Well, we do have HR bots and bots being used in multiple other functions, including finance too. Right, where we use artificial intelligence, where we use a plethora of questions to get the right answers to an associate who might need it immediately, right? We cannot have associates waiting on information about Mediclaim when they are battling for oxygen or a hospital bed in the middle of the night. We need instant responses. And this is one thing, HR bots is something which is new and upcoming in many companies. Some have already adopted it. We have seen it coming through really nice and well, assisting employees across the globe. Just one of the things, guys, and there are multitudes of such projects which multiple companies are trying to do. Now, we know that we are possibly talking to a lot of young budding HR professionals over there. So while Nisha has covered most of the challenges which HRs in the industry face, you might be scratching your head thinking, how does all this affect me? Has my college really prepared me, or none of this is part of our syllabus? These guys are talking Greek and Latin. Well, it's not. You just need to connect yourself with the macro trends today. So a couple of trends which you can try and think about, read about, and ideate upon is, please be aware that based on, again, our studies, which we have implemented in our companies, the employee experience boom continues. No longer can you expect an associate to work between a defined timeline between 8:30 and 5:30. And hence, as a HR, you've got to ensure that HR is in their room, on their laptops at any given point of time. AI, that's artificial intelligence, and humans, they are not competing against each other. They're rather complementing against each other. Behind creating a successful bot or creating a successful RPA system, any process automation, you have human beings constantly feeding in valid and validated information. Today's HR, they are no longer just there to provide directional or transactional assistance. They are actually here to provide guidance to businesses. We all live in uncertain times, right? So in these uncertain times, it's we HRs, we really had to get off our skin, roll up our sleeves, and really think out of the box to ensure that there is no loss of productivity. Employees really do not get overwhelmed working from home. They do not feel hemmed in, and still be productive and keep plugging in and plugging away every day, right? Virtual augmentation, multiple training aids, or even in the field of talent acquisition, if I were to wear my TA hat for a moment, we love to meet candidates ourselves, right? But it's really transformed the way we do things today. Everything is virtual. Look at this webinar. We'd probably be sitting in the same room in the same town hall today, but no, we are doing things differently. So rather than feeling threatened by it or being a little scared by all of this, it's time for us to accept this as the new normal. If you want to work in the corporate today, this is the new normal, right? So if you were to try and really think through, how can you try and adopt this? None of this is part of our course and curriculum, right? But think of it as just a normal human being, as a business professional. Just apply 3 critical lenses. As HRs today, it's no longer good enough just to be strong in your HR fundamentals. Yes, it is critical. That's your platform. But beyond that, you need to develop your business acumen. You need to be innovative, especially in your thinking and the way you think about your project and you roll them out. And most importantly, align to the strategic orientation of your company. So if you were to deep dive, well, as HR professionals, especially the young budding ones, you need to understand what are the operational aspects of your business. Different businesses, be it pharma or chemicals or say semiconductor industry, we operate in extremely different ways. A lot of it can be common, but we do have our own nuances. So if we were to help our workforce adjust to this new normal, we need to understand how the business operates. We cannot just think that one type of HR policy fits all. No, it doesn't. Understand the operational aspects of your companies. If you are vying for, if you're targeting, if you've been hired by a company in your pre-placement offers or XYZ, please start understanding the business. If you don't, it's going to be a really uphill task for you. Second, please understand that resources are a bit of a constraint. Every business is under strain for some reason or the other. Very few industries are really, really booming. Everyone has the potential to boom, but in today's scenario, resources are constrained. So please try to think how frugal you can be, and always try and align with the key objectives and initiatives that each of your business functions have. Employees are not the same. People who are part of your IT org can be very different than of your finance org. Try to look at each one as a separate entity within itself. Build your Acumen roadmap. I'm not going to talk you through all the points over here. You can read all of these yourself. But as a student, you need to start to think, what is your USP? If you were to try and bring a USP to the companies that you're targeting, you need to try and understand the business, really make a connect. If you make that connect, it's easier for you and it's easier for the companies to really recognize you and bring you on board. Start walking the talk, right? Moving on to innovation roadmap. Today, here now, in the last 1.5 years, we have been presented with such unprecedented times that nobody could really prepare us for it, right? No one was. As HRs, we certainly weren't. What we learned back in the day in college, yeah, the fundamentals are there, but that never can prepare you for a pandemic-like situation, right? So for us, to really try and innovate and ideate, we had to get creative. We had to obviously try and experiment. Today, if you have Microsoft Teams or Zoom over here, trust me, there are millions of apps out there which probably offer the same thing, but there are only some which really tick all the boxes, right? And that's why there is a process of hit, trial, and then come to a final conclusion of what you're going to pick up. So experimenting with multiple pilot projects of what works for your population, what works for your business, and then really quickly honing down on a solution to mitigate risk is really, really important for you. Coaching senior leaders how to manage this change. There are paradigm, changes that has come about in our industry, and leaders who always are under continuous pressure to keep the stakeholders happy, to keep the shareholders happy, to keep the board happy. Even they have had to rethink, put on their thinking hats and sometimes even ask for help. Take a coach, for example. It's really, really important for a HR to try and understand the leadership's needs also in this, because if you do not have a good, strong leaders who are actually guiding the company through it, it's going to be like a rudder issue, right? So please do try to keep innovative roadmaps in your mind. Go there with ideas. If you're trying to get into a company, or if you're trying to study a particular company, try to see what they have done in the last 1.5 years, in the last 2 to 3 years, to really be ahead of the curve and to really make a culture, to drive a culture of innovation, right? And lastly, strategic orientation roadmap. We need to always understand how HR strategies are implemented today throughout the organization to drive future objectives. How do we do this? How do we orient HR to the business? Well, first of all, we need to be strategic thinkers. Look ahead. If you have attended any town halls with your CEOs, try to see what's in it for you as a HR. If there are initiatives on, say, for example, diversity and inclusion, try to think how your recruiting strategy will change. Try to think how your learning and development course and curriculum will change to bring in more unbiased decision-making, for example. So as HRs, when you see a trend, when you see a particular direction that the company is taking, you need to align your own work streams accordingly. And if you don't, you'll be left behind, or you'll be probably put as a project team member on something. If you want to be in the driver's seat, you need to start strategically thinking way ahead. Try to carve out time on a regular basis to reflect. I mean, like I said, it's work-life integration, right? So there might be some times when you have some time for yourself, shut down your laptop, cut out all the noise around you from all the digital spaces that you have. Sit back, relax, and think. What did I achieve today? Does it really help my company move even forward an inch? And if you have ideas, write them down so that you can represent it appropriately. Gather as much information as you can from your peers, from your industry seniors, from your alumni. Analyze that information. Does it really apply to you, to your company, to your function? How can it really be beneficial? Can you tweak those solutions slightly? Please try to think of it so that you can become outcome focused. If you're not outcome focused or result oriented today in HR, that's a big no-no. So, in absolute summary, if I were to just tell all of you youngsters out there, you might be wondering, is it possible for us to have an MBA degree today and get into the industry? Well, yes, absolutely it is. Some of your alumni is already here who have gone through the same grind a couple of years back. So I see no reason why you cannot. Is the job market tougher today? Yes, it is tougher today. And it is only going to get tougher year by year by year. We have a large, ever-growing talent market pool that's being churned out by the academia. And we have a slowly more refined way that the industry is approaching this talent, right? But being a recession pass out myself, and I'm sure some of us on this panel also have the same experiences, it's not impossible to get a job today. You just need to try and look at your college, try and look at your curriculum as your bedrock, as your platform. It's a vocation. It's not just an education, it's your vocation. It really sets the direction of how your career is possibly going to be in the next couple of years or next couple of decades. Draw upon that. Look what's happening in the world outside. Even if you do not get a job, that's okay. Have a plan B. Go in for extended, internships if possible. The world will turn around. Things will shine up for all of us. If I look back at my own batchmates, my own peers, not all of us did have offers in the hands in the recession year, but pretty much all of us, when we look back at those days now and where we are today, we all have made it. Some in their own businesses, possibly you can start one. Some have joined startups, possibly you can join some too. Some have really diversified into HR related operations. Some have their own consultancies, some are HRIS or Workday or success factor consultants. So try to think out of the box, guys. It's gone are the days when we can always think that, yeah, I've done my MBA, I'm entitled. No, we are not. We have to constantly adjust to the new normal. And today's new normal is not just about wearing masks and cleaning our hands. Those are given hygiene factors. Today's new normal is about recognizing the macro trends in the world, how it really affects you in whichever is your specialization, and bringing in a USP. Bring in your USP, upskill, recognize, connect to what the industry is doing, connect to the companies that you're targeting so that you stand out amongst the crowd. That's how you make yourself employable. So that I'll take a pause and turn it over to our next speaker.
Yes, Mr. Orgya, can you please stop sharing your screen?
Is it stopped now?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right. Allow me to. All right. I'm having some challenges here. All right. Maybe I'll just log out and log in again. That's easier.
I would now like to introduce to you Ms. Neha Harihar. She's an alumni of DY Patil Deemed to be University School of Management. She has a specialization in HR. She's a learning and development specialist with close to 8 years of industry experience. She currently works with Deloitte India in the space of leadership development. She's also visiting faculty at various colleges in Mumbai for the subject of soft skills. She's not when she's not working or teaching, she enjoys spending her time reading, writing, staying fit, and being in a company of her loved ones. Professional development of students and contributing towards creating a sustainable planet and both close to her. I welcome you, Ms. Neha. I would request Ms. Neha to kindly address the participants.
Thank you, Dr. Sapna, for that glorious introduction. Thank you to this esteemed panel with whom I'm sharing this talk with. And of course, Dr. Gopal, it was wonderful listening to you even after so many years. Welcome, students. Thank you for making the time on a Saturday evening on a very interesting topic of HR, which some of you might be specializing in the year ahead. I'm going to be speaking about learning and development specifically today, and share some insights about what learning was pre-COVID and what are the so-called reimagined trends for the time ahead, right? So to quickly orient everybody, saying what did a traditional learning and development function look like, right? So we were service providers to cater to the capability building of an organization. So if I had to broadly bucket what kind of learning solutions a learning consultant would offer, it would be under behavioral and professional skills, technical skills, and then leadership development. So any curriculum that a learning team would offer in an organization was largely built on these three, as the bedrock. Now, I've listed down some programs which come under each of these categories just to sort of help you connect and orient you to the kind of programs that a learning function would run. These are not industry specific, but they can be industry specific, especially in the second bucket, which is the technical skill development, based on the needs of the learners in the organizations. Now, you guys are learners in colleges, you all were learners in schools. And of course, your curiosity quotient and learning quotient is very high because you learn day in and day out. But what happens in a workforce is you have limited days on the calendar that you actually spend towards learning. Obviously, priority number one is about delivering your KRAs, but like Argo just mentioned, learning doesn't stop. It has to go on. We have to evolve in the process of our careers, and which is why the learning function it plays a very crucial role under HR to help people keep up, be abreast of what's happening in the industry. And if people grow, if their skills grow, of course, that means there's going to be business growth, right? So in turn, that's what our learning function did. Now, the modes of learning, right? Pre-COVID, they were instructor-led. You all had to assemble into a classroom. There would be one or two instructors, who would facilitate a training program. Slowly and steadily, when training moved to learning, we thought, let's enable our learners a little more. And we had e-learnings that came up on various platforms. These were pre-recorded videos that gave snippets, so that taught a particular subject or a topic. And, as learning continued to evolve, we then gradually shifted to bite-sized learning or micro-learning, which means in nuggets, we would help the learner, understand a little bit about a given topic, right? Some of these, in fact, most of these programs that are listed here are still relevant even today. Now, what's changed is maybe how we as learners are learning. Now, all of you are learning very differently. You all would have been in college, maybe we would have been, sitting in a large bank hall, and then we would have probably been on a stage or a round table and talking to you and listening to you. But today it's very different, right? We're far away, but we're connected, and listening to all these speakers, we're getting a lot of insights. So let's try and understand what are those small changes that HR had to reimagine and rethink, when the world changed. So one study said that more than 35% of the people for the first time were experiencing something called work from home, right? They've never had remote working. So if you can imagine, if business had to happen from home suddenly, for organizations like these, especially small-sized or medium-sized organizations, adapting to a new way of learning was obviously a big challenge. However, I think learning as a function itself was already on the cusp of making that shift or making that move to leverage technology and to be more digitalized in its approach, right? So I think the COVID-19 crisis really has been in one way an opportunity to make that movement or make that shift from classroom to virtual or from classroom to digital very quickly. Maybe we were all not ready for it, but then we had to get ready for it once the crisis emerged. So if I had to pick one particular example of what was that change about going digital, I'd like to talk about learning experience platforms, right? So just like how all of us consume content on, say, a Netflix, or maybe we use food delivery apps, which give us suggestions based on our preferences. So preferences and patterns, we thought, can also be very much in tune with how a person wants to learn or wishes to learn, right? And that's how technology and the human learning, the curious mind came together over an experience platform, just like what you would call the Netflix of learning. Large organizations adopted to platforms like these. These could be on edX, Edcast, Degreed, where they had a host of learning resources from across the world coming together, available at just a click away for learners, right? Some key features of any learning experience platform would be, the first one says anytime, anyone, anywhere. These were available to you on demand, right? At any time of the day. In a normal setup, you would have to wait for a training calendar to get released by the HR. You would have to register for the course. You would have to wait until the date the program happens, go to the actual location and attend the program. What changed now? A learning experience platform, you can learn any time of the day. You don't have to do it in the middle of your workday. You don't have to wait until a trainer becomes available. You have everything available at any time that you want. You can consume your content, right? if the USP had to be defined for any learning platform, I would say it's curation. Learning has really become a bespoke experience for learners, because you now under one umbrella had different kind of learning assets, be it gamification, be it simulations, be it internal learning resources, be it video-based learning, podcasts, everything came under one umbrella, right? So the way content got curated, the way suggestions come up on a platform based on your preferences for learning, to make it very unique to you and your learning needs. I think that really has been a game changer in the world of learning. And imagine if some learners were really at a very fast pace and some learners were at a pace slower than the fast learners. You would not want to be at a beginner level. You would not want to have to now wait for an advanced class to be announced, right? You could actually have different levels under the same platform as soon as you're ready to learn, as soon as you're ready to consume content. We've heard this from a lot of organizations that this has worked so well, and because large organizations had, the capacity or the infrastructure in terms of IT or even in terms of finance to purchase such a platform and host it, what happened is it became very easy for thousands of people in an organization to take charge of their own learning, right? And it's been this ease of access and this plethora of learning options and learning content which became available to them that really made the difference, of being in a remote environment, yet being extremely empowered to make the right choices in learning. Now, this was one example of what really changed when we started working remotely and how people could learn. Now, mind you, not all organizations would be able to invest or would be, having experience in a learning platform. But in the future, or I think going forward, this is going to become very crucial, to ensure that organizations are not impacted by, loss of learning, or there shouldn't be discontinuity in learning when times like these change, or, when we're not able to control being physically at a place. And that's what Going Digital has been about. Now, although we don't have any in-person sessions anymore, and while most people enjoy that kind of learning, one way to sort of bring it closer to what it was earlier was having virtual classrooms. Just like today is pretty much like a virtual classroom. We're all on Zoom, y'all are on YouTube. We're two platforms integrating, to create the best kind of experience on this forum. So you could get your facilitators and experts from across the globe. They didn't have to fly down. They didn't have to be at a particular location. They could have been in a different time zone, and you're still connected because platforms like Zoom have made life very, very simple. And we've now had this as an opportunity to leverage expert speakers being available, making the time to share their area of work, share something, in terms of their experiences from the industry. And virtual learning and digital learning is definitely here to stay, right? I think everyone would have this question saying that going forward, is this the only way people are going to learn? Will we ever go back to our in-person classrooms? And a lot of us love that way of learning, right? Because we're able to be with our peers. And I think when we are with our peers, when we are brainstorming, when the human touch is actually there, we're able to connect with one another, we generally perform better. Going forward, I think we're headed to a very blended approach when it comes to learning. We're not going to have 100% classroom sessions, even if the big organizations have large academies where learning can happen, or universities where learning can happen. I think because in the last over a year, we've adopted to this way of living, we've adopted to connecting or even learning remotely, a mixed approach, a hybrid approach of using the power of digital, the power of technology on a virtual platform, and being in person to learn is the way ahead, right? I want to talk about something called as the learning organization. And the reason I bring this up is if you looked at the traditional way in which learning was in organizations pre-COVID, or maybe even some years before that, this function was just under HR as one of the transactions or one of the processes under HR, right? Today, organizations themselves have realized that if I empower my people to get skilled, it's going to make a huge difference in terms of productivity. It's going to make a huge difference in terms of the kind of return on investment that we make on talent. So the whole shift is, I would say, on majorly 3 parameters, okay? And it's not just the new normal, even the next normal is looking at an evolving learning organization. So culturally, what changes would you see as we make the shift, right? Learning earlier had a very push approach. A manager would nominate their reportee to say, hey, I think this, you need to do a course on communication skills. Today's learners are smart, and they say that I think I want to learn how to be better at influencing, or I want to learn decision making, right? And the power of having a growth mindset, especially in the multi-generational workforce that we work with, which is predominantly Gen Y like yourselves, continuous learning is what is going to help us sustain in business and sustain as individuals, as learning professionals, right? Empowered learning is the way we see learning going forward. Earlier, you had to wait for a learning program to be announced, right? Today, with the power of digital platforms, with the power of technology, you're constantly learning, and it's continuous learning that's going to be a game changer for a person's career growth, right? A lot of the content earlier was very focused on, I think this is a great program to run because it's really popular in the industry, right? Or if somebody is going to be a first-time manager, I need to teach him 1, 2, 3, 4 skills because that's what a first-time manager is expected to do. But look at what's changing now, right? Because of the whole blended approach, we are saying that the learner is empowered to take charge of what they want to learn. In the COVID world, we couldn't say that we're going to teach first-time managers the basic ABCs, like, okay, how do I coach a team? How do I give feedback to my team members? How do I work on client relationships? No, we're no longer doing that. We realized that if a first-time manager became a first-time manager in the remote world, in a COVID environment, they had to think about leading teams for the first time ever, and that too remotely. So suddenly, our entire learning curriculum got repurposed to address the exact needs of that individual at that level. Additionally, think about the way people were impacted, right? So if a first-time manager really had to care for his or her team, the crux of the basis would always be empathy. So learning the art of empathy again became extremely crucial all of a sudden, more than ever in this situation. So your curriculum was no longer talking about how do you just generally lead teams, but taking some very specific things into account, right? Things like diversity and inclusion have become of paramount importance, and it's learning function really, which is an important enabler in getting diversity and inclusion heard, and in getting the voice of inclusion on the table anywhere in an organization, because these behaviors can be learned behaviors, right? So today learning is talking about how to work with unconscious bias, how do you hire for diversity of thought. These kind of things are really the shift from the curriculum to thinking about what the learner really needs or what the organization really needs, right? The role of learning consultants is the other part that I wanted to touch upon. We were somebody who was asking our stakeholders in the organization, saying, hey, how many hours of learning do you think we should do? Or hey, what do you think is the most important skills for a person at every level to have? That approach I see significantly has changed, or it's gradually shifting to where we're now strategic business partners in any organization as learning consultants, okay? Talent and the way talent grows is a strategic priority. It's not just profits, it's not just ROI, but I think through learning and empowering our learners to take the right decisions, we can actually now become a learning organization. A simple example of empowered learning would be, say if I were working for an organization right after my MBA, and it's the industry of chemicals, right? And I know a lot about how this industry works. And now that after my MBA, I've got a job and I'm here, I've always been passionate about, say, climate change and sustainability. If I want to learn about climate change and sustainability in a chemical manufacturing setup, will I ever get the chance to? Is my learning function going to announce a program on that? Possibly not. But if you have a learning experience platform, or if you are a curious learner and you're fueled by that curiosity, you're actually going to go and start reading up and learning more about climate change. You don't have to wait for a program. You don't have to go attend a seminar in another city. All these resources are now available to you thanks to the internet, thanks to platforms like these, where you can start learning and you can actually connect the dots. And that's where we see the shift, even in terms of the workforce, right? Millennials today have an entrepreneurial mindset. They're not just going to follow the rules of an organization and say that we will learn and deliver as per what is expected of us. Even with a traditional corporate setup, they want their freedom, they want their space, and they want to innovate, they want to create. And to fuel innovation, we need to be, we need to be working with open minds. And when young professionals are doing that, I think it's learning and development, which is going to be the key enabler to help make that change, right? So learning and development really is now repurposing itself for the future of work, for the gig economy, for Gen Y, for the growth mindset, okay, and for continuous learning. I just want to sum it all up by saying that we've spoken about the old model, we've spoken about what's happening today, but what's really going to happen in the future, right? I was on one of these forums, and somebody mentioned that today machines are learning. What about you, right? And it's a very valid question, because platforms like digital experience platforms are really running with AI and machine learning. Today, everything is based on patterns and preferences and technology. Technology is here to stay. It's going to be the key enabler, not just for business continuity, but also for professional development. And I think we should be open to know more, to embrace it, and to leverage it to our advantage. The message for people who want to take up learning and development as their specialization when they get into HR is, the focus is really going to be tech to a large extent, right? So you have to be tech savvy. You have to be somebody who's ready to adopt, very nimble-footed, very resilient, because we don't know what kind of surprises are there in this very, very disruptive world that we live in. A balance of having people skills, professional skills, and technical skills is important for every individual. Anybody who's designing a learning curriculum must take care of these aspects, right? Run-of-the-mill courses are never going to work. It's always going to be learner-centric. It's going to be industry-centric. And it's going to be, just to help somebody fuel their career in the right direction by giving them access to the right learning assets and learning resources. And overall, organizations on the whole have to start embracing learning as a culture, and not as something that gets mandated saying that we'll do 40 hours of learning a week. A lot of focus is happening on something called as reskilling these days, saying that if you are good at a particular skill, how do you sort of get better, right? So things like these, things like having a dedicated reskilling initiative, things like focusing on the so-called soft skills, which are actually hard, like emotional intelligence, focus on coaching, focus on reverse mentoring, where leaders are learning from the younger lot in organizations, especially in places like technology. All of these are really the shape shifters, and this is what I could say learning is going to look like, at least in the next couple of years or so, if not longer. So that's all from me, and I'll hand it back to the host.
Thank you so much, Sneha, for giving us a lot many insights on rethinking about the HR practices. I would now like to
Sapna, 1 second. Sneha, you made me very happy today after I saw you for the last, I think I'm seeing you after almost about 8 years or so.
Yes.
And I'm glad you made me happy, because you've grown up into a full-fledged HR personnel from what I saw you in the school, and remember something, not 100%, but remember 10-20% of what I saw you in those days that you were there. God
Thank
bless
you,
you.
Gopal sir. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It means a lot. Thank you.
And I look forward to have many meetings with you so that you could impart some of what you learned at Deolite, some of what you learned at the school
Certainly.
to the current students that we have.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah. So
Thank
I
you.
would request Sapna, who is the coordinator. Sapna, please talk to Vani and Gagandeep. Vani, are you there? Yeah. I would always give first preference to our alumni students because they understand our college and they understand everything, and they also understand who our students are and from what background they come, etc., etc. And as I said, my whole life has been dedicated to ensure that students are success, and this is where I would like them to transform our existing students into successful students. So Vani and Gagandeep and Sapna Suri, please see if we can accommodate Sneha into our faculty group. Okay. Thank you. Vani.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sneha, for your valuable thoughts on rethinking HR practices. I would now like to introduce to you the next speaker for the day, Mr. Arnab Mandal. He's presently working with Qualcomm as workforce planning lead. He has enabled to set up and develop the workforce planning and talent intelligence COE within Qualcomm. His role has been to establish close connections with HRBPS, regional TA, and engineering business leads across all geographics to understand various workforce challenges and build partnership opportunities, design and develop a workforce planning internal platform and set up standardized report formats using external labor data and internal data to provide actionable insights to stakeholders in talent management and workforce planning space. He works closely with the people analytics team and helps to design future of work. Prior to this, Mr. Arnab has also worked with large number of MNCs, land brands, IBM, Gartner, Talent, Neuron, Zenov, etc. I welcome you, Mr. Arnab. I request Mr. Arnab to kindly address the participants.
Thank you, Dr. For the lovely introduction. Hope I'm clear. Just let me know if there are any disturbances. So yeah, I'm really thankful for this opportunity, and I thank each and every one of you for joining this session. It was really interesting to hear from industry leads like Nisha, Arghya, Sneha, and Dr. Gopal, everyone. It was really good. So. And now let me just share my slides, and I'll talk a little bit about HR analytics over here. So let me know when it is visible. Are you able to see it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So HR analytics, we in this changing world, ever-changing world, we are always, I'm sure all of us have heard about this word, HR analytics. It's jargon actually. So, and not just HR analytics, we also talk about talent analytics or workforce planning analytics or people analytics. What is this, and why is it important for a person who is doing an MBA in HR or any HR professional? It's because it's important for every single HR professional to leverage data analytics to solve people-related challenges. It's we are dealing with so much data, and so much is changing over on a daily basis that it's very important that we are on top of every changes in the data or what the data and trends that the data are talking about. And that is where a team of analytical professionals who are versed with various HR complexities come into the picture, and they work along with all the HR professionals across various functions to help the business make better decisions. So whether it is talent acquisition, which indirectly means attracting talent, or talent management or talent retention. Data and analytics plays a very big role in today's corporate world, and almost every decision is driven based on data analytics and data analysis. So let me give you example that we are talking about in this session. How has and the pandemic changed HR as such? So as Nisha and Arghya mentioned rightly, that it has that the way HR functions has changed a lot after the pandemic, right? It's because people are working from home. It's very difficult to keep them motivated. It's very difficult to train them, as Sneha was talking about, and the way we train them, that has changed. So, and we see that every single aspect of HR has kept on changing, and hence it is imperative that every HR professional has to understand what is people data and how to mine it and how to leverage it to make better decisions. So, and as Rashmi said in the morning, it is very important to have strong and intelligent to survive. But it is very important to. It's more important to adapt to the changes, and the changes that the pandemic has brought forward to us. I think HR analytics is one of the key factors, and that will help corporates to and the HR team to succeed in the long run. For example, we were talking about work from home and how the talent within various corporates are increasingly moving towards a work from home setup. Now, not every corporate can opt for a work from home setup, right? So, and say a company like ours, we are into the semiconductor market. Now, we have labs to operate, as well as we have people who are working in the software division who can opt for work from home. But we cannot say give work from home option to each and every employee. We have to be very judicial about it. So how do we analyze that, who to give work from home and when to give work from home? That is when people like us or a function like ours comes in, and we start analyzing the data. We start analyzing things like who are people connecting to on a daily basis, and connecting the who are they working with on a daily basis. If a systems person is working with a hardware guy, then the days that the hardware guy comes into office, then the systems guy also has to come into the office. So these are the parameters that we study and build models around to come up with solution to come up with challenges, say a work from home challenge. Or and let's talk about another challenge: talent attraction. So what is talent attraction? Talent attraction is nothing but who do we acquire into a company, or which is the talent that we hire into a company. Now, most of this responsibility lies with the talent acquisition folks, right? Which I'm sure some of you are interested in and you will get into. But many times you will get into a situation where you will not be able to hire the right talent. And that's because there's a mismatch between the requirement and the location that you are hiring for. So how do you come up with and go to your hiring manager and say that, okay, this is not working out because of so and so parameters? So and then you talk to someone in talent analytics, and they come up with solutions where, or they do an in-depth study of the market, saying that, okay, you are not able to hire because this certain talent is not present in this location. And along with that, they are also, it's always advisable to give the option of which is the alternate location where they should go and hire to. So these are some of the kind of projects that HR analytics or a talent analytics professional works on. So it's a very interesting and a very niche kind of a function right now, where people are still not sure. Actually, people are still not sure where to place it. Should it be placed under HR? Should it be placed under TA? Or should it be placed under a corporate business function? So, as you see, I'll talk about a few of the partners that we HR analytics people work with. So, depending on the project, we work with exec leads of companies, or HR VPs of companies, or TAC COEs, as well as and the resources that we use change from study to study, or from the challenges that we are solving, and it defines what resources we are using. On for some one more interesting thing that we work on is analyzing which can be the next location that a business wants to expand in. So with the pandemic, we have seen that people want to work from home. What happens when people want to work from home? People might not want to live in a city like, say, Bangalore or Mumbai, because they are not cost effective, right? They want to move back to their bases, maybe hometowns in tier 2 cities and all. But how do we help a company? And now there are challenges with that, correct? The challenges will be like, say, when a person moves out to a tier 2 city, obviously your comp has to change, correct? So that how do you analyze that, how much change of a comp will be there for every person who moves to a different? So that is so we again partner in such situations with the comp and team and understand how a cost of living of a location impacts the comp that a person will get in a tier 2 city. And then accordingly we build models around it. And HR analytics is not about building models around data that you currently have, but it is also about building predictive models. So say, let me talk about talent attrition in this case. So say we have a business in a particular location, and suddenly a competitor comes in and they start hiring left, right, and center from us. So, and we see a certain attrition in a particular function. So what do we do? So we engage with multiple functions at that time, and then we come up with different solutions for different challenges. One, we partner with the HRBPs to understand why are we seeing the attrition. Is it because we are paying less, or is it because of some other internal challenges? Say, if people are not happy with the motivation, or with the learnings that they are having, or they have a stagnant career and they want to move out. So these are the kind of things that we try to analyze by conducting a regular surveys, which can be run at a quarterly basis, or a yearly basis, or a half yearly basis. So these studies help us to gauge the sentiments of the talent within a company, and then track it on a periodically to understand where or when we can see attrition in a particular function or a particular job family. So, and that is one level of engagement with respect to attrition. The second level of engagement, or a study that we can do, is how when a new competitor comes into a market, how many people we can lose. So this we do by tracking their performances, and their performances, as well as their comp, as well as their engagement level with the company. So we, as you can understand, there are lots of things that we do on a daily basis, and we partner with various functions of the HR and the corporate business on a regular basis to help the company succeed in challenging times, whether it is COVID or whether it is anything else. I would say a competitor popping up in a location of interest. So based on these various parameters, we come up with various reports, and these reports can be location based. These reports can be skill based, to understand what are the kind of skills that are available in a particular market, or it can be what are the so say, like we were talking about L&D, and Sneha was pointing out that we come up with learning programs which will be relevant for the talent. Now, how do you understand which are the relevant programs that are relevant to the talent? So even then, you partner with analytics person to understand what are the programs that the competitors are providing, or what are the skill gaps for a particular skill set, for a particular set of professionals, which can be filled in and can be fit into a different function. So say we are hiring for new function, which is, and being in the semiconductor industry, the industry changes at a very rapid pace, and often we are not able to find the right talent in the market, because before a professional comes out or completes a graduation with a particular skill set, that skill set is already obsolete many times. So when, we have to consistently and continuously and train our talent on so that they are up to date with the technologies that are being evolved in the market. So and that is where we try to address what are the skill gaps for the future future workforce that we will see 2 years, 3 years down the line, and we start training them 2 years before that. And before training that, we have to identify what are the who are the people we need to train. Now we cannot train each and every person in a company, right? So we identify who are the key people, or this who can be trained by looking at their performances, by their interests, by and how do we gauge the interest? Again, a pulse survey is an area where we collect all these data sets. So if you see, every data set is sort of connected to every model. So I cannot say that, okay, a HR analytics person will only be aligned to an exec lead, or a or a HRBP, or a talent acquisition person. So in the HR, HR analytics person is someone right now who's high in demand, but then nobody knows what are the skill sets that you need and that you need to be there. And I'm sure some of you guys will end up in this role, because it's a very evolving role that's coming up, and it's in high demand. So what are some of the skills required to become a HR analytics professional? First is a basic understanding of various HR functions and how they, what are the data sets required to be successful in that particular function. Second, basic data analysis skills often work for you. So if you are good with Excel and you're good with macros within an Excel, that should do. But to get to the next level, there are analytical tools like Python and R, which you need to learn, as well as data visualization tools like Tableau and Power BI, which help you visualize the data sets and in a very professional manner, which can be presented to execs. And third, and obviously, is communication and presentation skills. So these are some of the skills required to become a successful data analytics professionals. And I'll also touch briefly on some of the projects that we work on. And so we work on location analysis models, which help us identify new or future locations. We work on identifying which are the key competitors that a company can, or a talent acquisition partner can target, which are the universities that people can or corporates should target with respect to hiring particular skill set, or what is the cost of opening an operation in a particular location. But one of the most interesting things is identifying and tracking down competitors. What are the skills they are hiring? What are the skills that they are working on? So that becomes very imperative for a company like Qualcomm, or any other company which is at the works in an industry which changes on a daily basis. And then obviously there are various other studies that I don't think this platform is a good place to work on. But then and these are few of the topics that I wanted to touch on to help you understand what is data analytics and why you should at least understand the basics of data HR analytics, so that you become a successful HR in any corporate that you work on. Yeah, so not getting too much into details, but I hope I was helpful to a few of you, if not all. And yeah, that's about it from my end, actually. So I would like to hand it over to Dr. Bani to close this session.
Yes, Sapna, take over.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arnav, for your thought process into letting us know about HR analytics. We will be now going ahead with the question answer session. So I would request Dr. Rashmi Shirit Nair to kindly take it up.
Rashmi, before you start, please request all the panel members to put on their videos.
Sure, sir. I just request everybody to please be on the video. Argya, yeah, thank you so much, Argya. We've already stretched the time. So
Saheli and Janvi, could you also put on the video, please?
Saheli and Janvi, let me just introduce you all also as our students. Yeah, Janvi, if you're there around, we've already stretched the time, so we restrict the questions at this platform with permission of Dr. R. Gopal and Dr. Vani Kamath. We'll restrict ourselves to around 3 to 4 questions, not beyond that. So, Saheli, I think if you have anything lined up, or if there are questions which you would like to place, Saheli and Janvi. Saheli?
Ma'am, should I?
Yes. Yes, Janvi.
Yeah, hello, myself Janvi Sharma. Currently, I'm pursuing MBA in HR.
Janvi, put on
I'm
the
in second
video.
year.
Put on the video, Janvi.
1 second, sir. Yeah. Hello. So, am I visible?
Yes, my dear.
Yes, sir. So, actually, sir, my question was that any courses can you suggest for the HR rather than our course? Any, like beyond our course, you can like any courses can you suggest? Since we are we are in a lockdown pandemic and everything is going work from home, as well as classes are going offline. So anything that rather than our college courses, we can do any other courses in HR.
So, Janvi, do you mean to say that you are talking about value-added courses which can be added along with your regular MBA HR, right?
Yes.
Which will give you a chance to get the placement.
Yes.
Yeah.
So who would like to take the question?
I'll just try and answer this to some extent, then probably other colleagues can also add in. So there are a lot of courses that you would see which are auto learning courses that are available on LinkedIn as well, which you can take it up just for self learning. But I wouldn't say these courses will get you an employment opportunity outside. So you can get acquainted with a lot of tools that are available, know what is happening in each of the functions, like what is happening on analytics. HR analytics is also a good course, which my colleague can talk about in detail. But I would say start, interacting with industry experts who can give you small-time projects. So a lot of organizations are coming up with small-time live projects, which they are giving to students right now during this pandemic, where they are open to explore, and students also get an on-the-job learning kind of opportunity, a small internship or a paid kind of internship for 2 to 3 months before you actually move on to a full-time role. So that's there, and I'm sure my friends from talent acquisition and learning and development can also throw some light on if there are any courses that you all think could add on to their overall portfolio.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. May I go next?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. So if I put on my talent acquisition hat, of course, there are multitudes of courses available over there, right? So look with it, see what really appeals to you. HR is, as a subject, is vast, right? There are so many different buckets that you can place your, HR hats on. See what really appeals to you. If really training and development appeals to you, again, nothing really beats the practical exposure which Nisha has shared. You can certainly look at extended internships. If that will certainly help you get more employable. But beyond that, if you really still want to go ahead and equip yourself with any course for upskilling, if it's training and development, look at courses which are offered by ISTD. If you are more into labor law, you can look at labor law courses specific to it. If you really want to join a large organization, an MNC organization, you can look at SHRM. If you really want to branch out a little bit, today entire HR is on different platforms, be it PeopleSoft, Oracle, Workday, SuccessFactors. We have people who are functional consultants, technical consultants, but it's great to have a HR who's also a Workday consultant, because they would know the ins and outs of how HR would function. So you may not be a human resource manager, but you'll be a Workday consultant who's also a HR. Again, nothing beats practical experiences. So please do try to connect with the alma mater for extended internships. But beyond that, these are certain things that you could do. And a tangential angle, perhaps, try to look at what kind of companies are really hiring today. Are there, India is becoming the hotbed for shared services, right? For shared services concept, because of our talent, because of the way we are able to carry ourselves in MNCs, and because we speak fairly fluent English. So if there are US MNCs or UK or European MNCs coming, try to see if you can pick up a couple of levels of those languages, be it German or say French, maybe even Korean if you're interested, at least a couple of levels, so that it really does help you connect with your headquarters, with your colleagues outside. Those are those small USP factors which will help you present yourself better and keep you ahead of the crowd. That's my 2 cents.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Janvi, I wanted to add something, because let me tell you, in terms of actual steps that you got to follow, right? During your summer vacation, you need to work in an HR company.
Yes, sir.
That's number one. No, hold on, Janvi, please.
Yeah.
While you're there, step number one, write down what exactly you want to achieve in the next 5 years. It's very important that you do that. Second, I think it was Nishi who during a presentation said about doing a SWOT analysis. Do that as a strength weakness analysis of your own self. That's very critical. Step number 3, there are a lot of electives which we have in the HR field also, which is coming up this year onwards for you. Look at them, look at your goals, look at your strength, weaknesses, and choose those electives very carefully. Step number 4, we have what Nishi said about the live projects. Choose a live project. And when you do that, look at what Mandal said, get into some, if you want to get into a global company, check into that global company and see whether you can get a live project. Talk to Rashmi about it, talk to Sapna about it, talk to Kiran Khernar about it. Guys, these are our placement team members and coordinators of the MBA program that we have. Talk to them and perhaps they could help you get into those live projects in those companies. Very important, while you are working on the live projects, never forget to not only work with your bosses, but also find out who is the chief of that HR department.
Yes, sir.
Let me tell you what happened to me in 1977. I lost my job. I gave up my job. I just threw the job which I got in Bush India Limited. And for 3 months, I was jobless. I had sent about 100 applications. I needed money desperately. And then when I wrote the first application, I wrote to the HR manager. And then a thought process came to my mind. I said, why am I writing to the HR manager? Because that guy will simply take it and file it. He will not do anything much. So I wrote directly to the chief executive officer of the company or the chairman of that company. And believe me, that's how I got my job at Siemens. Identify who is the key person out there. And the minute you identify that, your job is done. And that's how you would get a good employment. Clear? Guys, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I would just like to add on to it. If anyone wants to answer, can answer. And I would just like to give some background of, how students can make them more visible and we also have technology coming into play. So I would like to talk. Rashmi, is there anyone else who want to add on to this? Otherwise, I will talk next.
Oh, I think you can go ahead, Tisha.
Okay, yeah. So what usually I've seen students doing is making themselves more visible on digital platforms, like going on Naukri. There's some websites which also promotes internships, etc., which is internchala.com, and where students are mentioning on their profile they're open for internships, etc., and they keep posting certain articles, etc. They write certain articles on subjects of their interest, go through it. And also, as Gopal sir rightly said, networking is something that will really help you as an HR professional. So the more and more people you reach out to, more and more people you seek guidance from, more and more mentors you have in the industry, that's where you will get elevated into your current. So it's not only to get your job, but being in the HR fraternity, it's also important how visible you are. How are you connecting people? So institute will play a role to some extent, but after that, how do you leverage it? It's up to you. You can reach out to, as Gopal sir rightly said, get your networks right in place. Start connecting with a lot of HR professionals, and LinkedIn is a very good platform for this. Pick up the phone, talk to them. I don't think I would have ever denied somebody who's calling me and seeking advice. Though in interest of time, some at least a 3-liner, 4-liner advice will always be given from an HR professionals for students who are reaching out to them. But there is a way, as Gopal sir rightly said, if you keep sending CVs to any HR professionals or any organizations, or just shooting mailers to them is not going to help. It's how you're going to connect to them at the right spot. If you see some person who's posting an article on learning and development, so you have to reach out to that person asking what are some of the insights, what do you think are changes, how do you think, are there any projects? That's how you start. Just sending a CV across and asking them for a job opportunity is not going to help you. You have to learn. So I would suggest invest your time for next 2 to 3 months to learn what are some of the trends that are happening. Write down, as Gopal sir rightly said, that's the first step that you would do. Is first you analyze what you are good at, and then try and leverage on that. If you're good at talking, then probably you could leverage your skill sets, pick up the phone, get some contact details, try talking to them on phone. You will do 3 follow-ups, 4 follow-ups. I'm sure at the 4th time you will succeed. So you have to try every networking site that which will allow you to expand your overall network. So I would say that's something which you all should focus on. And apart from that, yes, there are a lot of courses, and as my colleague Arnav rightly said, in terms of SHRM is another platform which will give you visibility to different forums. There are competencies, there are behavioral competencies, certification, etc. If you're not sure of what exactly you want to get into, like when I started off my career into HR, I wouldn't know whether I have to get into a general HR term or general HR team, or whether I need to get into a specialization and learning and development, or whether it's analytics. I wasn't sure. So I'm assuming you would be at that space right now, and you need to exactly figure out what you are good at. And there is this digital platform available. So I'm saying try and leverage it, and just focus on your networking right now and analyzing your internal strength. That would help you a lot.
Sure. Okay. Thank you so much.
Shall we go to the next question? We stick to this. Sahili,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
had anything in mind after
Yes.
listening to the session? Representing your class. You guys are representing your class.
Absolutely. Firstly, I would like to thank my faculties and all the speakers for sharing the such valuable things with us today. And moving on, I would like to ask Sneha ma'am regarding what are the things that still comes to your mind as takeaways from DY Patil School of Management for shaping yourself?
Sahili, thank you. That's a great question. And it's so much nostalgia now. When I was listening to Dr. Vani Kamath talking about what's happening and a little background in terms of the university, it really brought back some memories. And I'll say that I personally have looked at life at DY Patil not just about coming to college and attending lectures, but there was a lot more to it than that. And I think I would attribute my curiosity and my willingness to be part of something beyond just attending exams and getting a degree, which probably has shaped me up as a professional. I'm grateful to the college to have even given me those opportunities. So I distinctly remember with the dean back then, Dr. Manjrekar, I had the opportunity to work on a research project for him. I was part of the placement committee initially, supporting Dr. Hr Nair. So, things like these, even participating in the Colosseum event that we had, where we played box cricket, we had to get people, our classmates together. So a gamut of those experiences have really, shaped me up. And I think they've been value adding apart from just getting an MBA. One thing that I also, distinctly remember is my connect with the faculty, right? A lot of the faculty members would remember me as someone who would barge into the faculty room and start talking to them, not just about my project. And while I had a project guide, I used to speak to all the HR faculty and all the other faculty just to bounce off some ideas. They were so forthcoming, and they've never said a no. And I think for students, see, you guys are like 40, 50, 60 in number, right? You can't expect the professor to come to you. So the teacher appears when the student is ready. So you've got to be ready. You've got to go. The networking piece that the other panelists were speaking about a while ago, I think it starts very early on. It starts right in college. The way you network with your peers, the way you network with your faculty members, I think that's of essence. And that's what I recall as the fondest memories of my college life or my 2 years in MBA HR. Yeah, I hope that answers some bit of what you were trying to understand, Saheli.
Thank you very much. It was amazing talking to you and listening to your experience.
Saheli,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Neha, can I add something to what you
Certainly, sir.
Yeah. I can't prevent myself, being a faculty myself and a director, I can't prevent myself butting in every now and then and adding things to what the panelists say. Around every year, around 200 companies come to the college for placements. Only last year, because of the pandemic, we had a drop from 200, it came down to about 100, 130, something like this. And I make it a point to talk to almost all the HR. Either I go into the placement room and talk to them, or Kiran Khernar and some other faculties bring them to my room, and then we have a cup of tea together or something like this. Or I join them at lunch. And I've been asking a series of questions. In addition to asking them what profile, this, that, etc. I also ask them on what basis do you select students. And I think all the HR guys who are here may be able to correct me if I'm wrong. But the summary of what my discussions with them told me that there are 3 points which they look at. One is the fundamental knowledge. That means you ought to know what HR basically is. Yeah, and when somebody says, competency mapping, you got to know the definition of competency mapping, blah, 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 and all these things. The second thing which you should know is how to apply these techniques which you have in your day-to-day operations or the applications knowledge that you talk about. And the third one, which many of them told me is very, very critical, is I use the word holistic development of the student. And what do I mean by holistic development? You should have a good communication skill. You should be able to network. You should have a good personality. You should be smiling. Like what you see is Sneha, Nishi, both the Mandals, always smiling away to glory, showing me their beautiful young, you should be smiling. You should be able to work in a group. You should be able to politely put your point forward, all these things, And this is the third very important thing that they all talk to me about. And I must tell you, I must tell both of you at this point of time, whether you noticed it or not. Maybe you've not noticed it because of the pandemic, but in the regular classes that we have, and I think Sneha would bear testimony to what I'm saying. We have a lot of these cultural programs. We have a lot of these sports programs. We have a lot of these committees coming in. We have a lot of these conferences coming in. And what is the objective of all of this? The objective of all of this is we don't want you to become a bookworm. We want you to develop fully. I'm not going to get into what Arnab said about HR analytics and what Arghya said about talent management and all that, because half of those things went above my head. So but the fact is that these basic things you should know to a certain extent. The application side you should know to a certain extent. And the very important thing is what Sneha also said. You got to have the holistic development. She gave some examples, and you got to have that holistic development. If you don't have that, then you're lost out completely, because corporates want that. And the very important thing is none of these HR people have told you that today the life of the corporate has changed. Among all other things, they're expecting the student to give results from day one. And they say, we don't have time to tell you what is pharma marketing and what is pharma management, how the pharma industry grows and blah, blah, blah. These are all I don't have time. That means you go to learn, if you say I want to get into the pharma industry, then you should know the basics of what pharma is, what are the products which are there, which are the major companies, what are they growing, what is their growth rates, etc., etc. Where are their headquarters is and what products they're manufacturing. Something at least you should know all these things before you can, because corporates expect you to start producing, giving them results from day one. That old concept where I would say, I'll train you for 6 months, and at the end of the 6 months, you come and give me results. That is no longer valid anymore. And that's my perception of the whole thing. I think you should know these things first. Please correct me if I'm wrong, my dear friends.
No, sir, I think, I fully agree in terms of readiness. We've already, we expect that the fresh talent that's coming in is not just coming with a degree, but is coming with certain knowledge, and most importantly, the right mindset. Your willingness to show up, learn, be curious is what's really going to help you succeed. So that attitude, and that attitude is built over a period of time. It doesn't happen just because you got an MBA degree, right? So learn to seek those opportunities. It's probably way harder in the virtual world, and I understand that, but you've really got to try and see how you can build networks early on, how you can think about futuristically where you want to be, and then work backwards towards achieving that, right? Grab those opportunities with both hands, and do whatever it takes to leverage the people around you, because like we know, they're all PhDs that you're working with, and you're so privileged to have such great minds being your faculties. I think make the most of it, and I know for a fact that they're more than willing to show up, and they're more than willing to help you in your holistic development.
Thank you so much.
I think you'll sum up, because we've already reached an 8:40. So I really, from the bottom.
No, maybe Vani and Sapna. Are there any questions on the chat boxes? Let's take one or two from them also. Vani, Sapna, Rashmi, are there any questions on the chat boxes which have come up?
So we can just pick up one last question.
Yes, my dear.
Yeah, there's one question which can come across. It can come to argue. As the HR costing, either ways, it could be Nisha, argue, or Arnab could take this up. Has the HR costing gone up during the pandemic as compared to that of a traditional setup?
That's a very good question. If you mean to say whether we have enough budgets as compared, has it gone up? Really, our budgets have gone up. Has the cost of being an empowered function has gone up? I wouldn't really say so. It's really gone up. Every company is fairly cash tight right now. Having said that, there is a lot of reallocation. Every HR team on the whole would have different buckets in my mind. What we do over here is we have, say, travel and living expenses, team building exercise expenses, upskilling expenses. So a lot of reallocation has happened, but if you take the bottom line, I don't really think so that the costs have gone up. in the near future, it'll possibly go down, because what you invest in a platform today, that's sort of future ready. You're only going to you're only going to invest so much little to keep those platforms going, right? Be it virtual training, or be it virtual upskilling programs, virtual mentoring and coaching programs, or virtual interviewing. So those are one-time investments. You'll possibly invest a little bit more, try an upgrade in the future to come, but I don't really think so. The costs have really escalated. Others from HR operations, maybe Nisha can throw a little bit more light on that.
Yeah, just Arnab, as you rightly said, I would just give certain trends, and when we talk to a lot of HR fraternity people, that's what we come across. So if you ask this question, Rashmi, to any of any organization employee, any youngster, if this question is asked, they'll simply tell you, hey, the organization is saving up cost, office is closed. You're saving up on electricity bills, and that's the first question what any youngster would say. So I wouldn't say, as Arnav rightly said, the reallocation is definitely on focus. And what most organizations are now doing is, structuring it well. Whether it's, I wouldn't say it costs, because ultimately, if you're having any digital platform, it's an investment that you're doing it. Which you're doing it for the next 2 or 3 years. So it's not that it's just for this year. And yes, in terms of resourcing, we're trying to see how are you upskilling employees. So again, that's not a cost. Learning and development has always been of prime focus. You're just trying to reskill that employee and trying to invest in that employee. So, again, business sustenance is again something that we are talking about. So we're trying to balance between both. So that's a very wrong way at, even at looking at whether the cost has gone up or whether the cost has gone down. I don't think so. It all depends on the stage where the organization is. If it's a mid-sized organization, definitely they have to take into consideration what's the kitty that they have in place for that particular year, and that's how it's getting relocated. So digital platforms, learning interventions, and these are something which are non-negotiable right now for an employee. Anything which is coming even as a saving for any organization, that's being passed on to employee, either in terms of a benefit or giving a special giving certain policies, etc. But whatever you're getting it, we're trying to ensure the employee is given the maximum benefit in the entire scenario.
Yeah,
so
that's the reason I asked, because there's a lot of employee-centric policy which has been coming on floor, especially considering empathizing and, whether it's a mediclaim or whether it's the post-COVID insurances which we are talking about. So
No, Rashmi. Nisha also tried to confuse a little bit, and Mandal also tried to confuse a little bit. They mixed up the total cost of employees with the cost of the HR department. The question is posed, has the cost of the HR department increased or decreased?
So yeah, I would like to add on to that. So
not whether the costs have been transferred to the employees to benefits, and as Rashmi put it, gave a very concrete example. No, that's not correct. And therefore the answer could be something different from what both the speakers have spoken. Sorry for interfering and talking like this, but
I think Arnab could place this because he does the analytics.
I can't help it because
I was going to say that.
Being a very senior person, I try to, and more important, being an engineer myself, my brain always works on a very logical format and rational format and thinks where exactly, sorry guys, sorry for my interrupting like this. Yeah, thank you.
No, absolutely. I think all of you are sort of right. And coming from the analytics background, I would say that cost does not work like that. It's always about, as some of you mentioned, it's about reallocation. Whenever we look at cost of a particular department, it comes and the cost is at a VP level. Actually, that's how we calculate, and it is calculated for the next 2 years, not even the next month. So whenever there's an increase in cost in certain functions, it is taken out from certain things, or it is reallocated. If we are going, and as some earlier said, we are increasingly investing in platforms, which and where we are seeing increasing advantages of going for platforms, because then we don't need to subscribe to something that and takes away the cost on a monthly basis. So that's how you sort of reallocate certain things and budget in exceptions like COVID cost or healthcare cost and things like that, which come up, which are placed upon us.
Thank you, Arnav. Shall we sum it up? Can we quickly just summarize with permission?
Is there one good question coming up, Rashmi? Have a look at the chat box and pick up one more question, because I want to get this to the
Vani ma'am, any questions from your end?
Yeah, there is one question from my end. This is for the panelists who are here. Generally, when we spoke to our MBA students, so they are having the comprehension that since it is a pandemic time, they may not get the placements which they are looking for. And they might have to come up with the placement offers which they may not be in a way to accept. So in that case, and not only that, there have been a lot of layoffs which have happened in the past. So this is something which is a great worry for our students. So in this case, as all of you are from talent acquisition team, how would you comment on this, and what would be your answer to our MBA students? Yeah.
Can I take that?
Yes, Mandal.
Yeah, Mandal.
All right. So I can really place myself where most of the students today are. Perhaps some of the other panel members were too, but I passed out during the height of recession. And needless to say, I did pass out from an institute where most of my seniors, they had multiple offers. And here we were, not a single company had come in. Today, if I look at my peers, well, like I said, we all found our different paths. Most of us, placement is not the only way to get jobs. If you heard what Nisha shared earlier, please try to approach and get internships. Today, even if there aren't enough opportunities in certain companies, if they are open for internships, if you're interning there, who do you think they'll go to when actually things turn around in the green after, say, a couple of months or maybe next year? They'll turn around to you, the interns who are already immersed into the culture, right? Who know the systems and processes. Beyond that, trust me, back in the day, long back, a decade and a half back, when we were struggling, we didn't have smartphones to get connected. You have everything in your hand. You can get connected to industry leaders. You can participate in various forums. You even have Internshala, which Nisha shared, which all talent acquisition members keep a very keen eye on. We didn't have anything back then. My only piece of suggestion to every aspirant over there is, please don't look at your MBA as the ticket to get a job. Your MBA doesn't teach you that. It teaches you the basics, the platform, which Gopal sir shared. And I hope so, and I really genuinely hope so, that it gives you the right attitude. The attitude to say, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to find my place in the world of corporate, or even if it's a government PSU that you're joining as a HR, I'm going to find my place. That never say die. Don't let that fire in your belly die. If you let that die, you're done. You're done. Keep plugging away. It might take a year. I have several of my classmates who finally found a HR job, much lower paying, months, say 16 to 18 months down the line, much lower than what our juniors were starting off with. But that's okay. Over a long period of time, you need to look at your career. You need not look at your first salary offer or your first offer letter that it should have a big number with multiple zeros in it. No. Anyone's career is at least 3.5 decades. It's like a huge, long runway, guys. So even if you're starting low, it doesn't matter. But if you start strong, keep that fire kindled in your belly and hurtle along that path. If you have the right attitude and if you do the right things, if you connect to the right people at the right moment, if you're okay even for an unpaid internship for long hours, please do that. That's what I did to get my first job. And I have no complaints whatsoever. Right? Things will balance out. Just remember, when the going gets tough, it is tough out there. The tough really have to get going. This is the time when you need to create USPs. We spoke about multitudes of things, XYZ courses, internships. Please do those to add value, because there's a huge talent pool out there. If you want to stand out as the most employable, you've got to make the difference. Back then in our day, colleges never used to have seminars, symposiums like this. Your college is doing this for you. That's a great thing in itself. They're trying to bridge the gap between being educators and being industry connect. So leverage this, reach out to industry seniors, and never, ever, ever give up. The world's not going to be in a pandemic situation forever. When it comes out, when the time is right, they're going to hire. You better be ready for that moment and equip yourself so that you're ready. That's it.
Yeah, I think you joined, you left the college somewhere in 2009 or 10, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right, Sneha?
Yeah, 2009.
2009, yeah. And that was the time when that financial pandemic came in, caused by the Lehman Brothers, if I'm not mistaken.
Recession, sir. Recession. 2009, yeah, Lehman Brothers recession, sir.
Lehman Brothers, this thing came in, and that was the time when jobs in the financial sectors and other sectors almost collapsed. Now, today we are having something which is not a financial pandemic, but it's a health pandemic, which is far, far greater than that financial pandemic caused by the Lehman Brothers. Today we are having a Chinese biological war, if I may be allowed to say. It's a biological war where it's a supremacy between two world powers. One is China and the other is the USA. This fight is actually between the two world powers, China and USA. And all of us have got caught into this entire thing. It's like what exactly happened in the Mahabharata. It was a fight not just between Pandavas and Kauravas, between the good and the bad, but the whole world got engulfed into this war, and that's where we are today. And Sneha, just correct me if I am wrong. You left the college around 2009, if I'm not mistaken.
2013 is when I passed out.
2013. Okay, then you are not. Then you may not have that knowledge as what Arghya has. Right. But point to be noted, taking a clue from what Mandal said. Children, I have only one statement to make. First of all, decide what you want. Are you interested in getting employment? Are you interested in becoming an entrepreneur? Because if you are interested in getting an entrepreneur, there are a large number of openings. There again, you require fire in the belly. There again, you require bank loans, etc., which are going to be difficult. And then you got to follow a certain path, and you must have resilience to failures which will take place. If you want employment today, please go ahead with the employment status and work towards it, work out what you want in life, move in that direction, number one. Number two, as Mandal said, get into internship, get into this, get into that. Yeah. Job openings are not there in companies like Deolite. Let me tell you this very clearly. Job openings are there in small, not even small, in medium and slightly small, larger companies. Get into those companies, look at what you want, see whether you're getting a profile that you want, work towards getting that profile. And I think 99% of the time you will be successful. You got to do a SWOT, as Nishi said just now. Nisha, sorry, not Nishi. Nisha said just now. You got to do a SWOT, call it by any other name you want. After Bush, I joined Tata's. And who are my competitors in Tata? Who are my peers? I was the only guy who did IIT Kharagpur mechanical engineering. The others were all IIT IIMs, IIT XLRIs, IIT Bajajs. And that itself gave me a weakness complex in me. I said, what the hell? And all these guys think that just because they are from IIMs and XLRIs and all, they are on top of the world, the rest are all idiots. From that level, I said that this is not acceptable. I did a SWOT analysis. I went to the terrace of my building. I was living in a chawl. I went to the terrace of my building, sat down below the tank. I said, what is it that I want to achieve? Well, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Analyze the weaknesses. I said, I don't have knowledge on business management, which all these guys claim to have. I did my MBA. Then I said, no. It's not just MBA, which is enough, it's money, which is important also. So I went and did my ICWA. So you need to learn constantly. You need to work constantly. You need to keep on revising your strength, weaknesses, and it's only after that you can go ahead. And the first step is during the pandemic, pick up things which are available, irrespective of any monetary benefits, and all that. Even if you get an internship in a good company where you can learn a lot, jump into it. I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong, because this is what I personally feel is the strategy that one should follow for during this pandemic times.
Sir, I would like to add on one point here. So I completely agree with Mr. Mandal. He has mentioned that there are a lot of internship opportunities now in the pandemic, which is actually a silver lining for the students, I feel. And this is something which was not there 2 years back. And if you ask the same students who have asked questions in the past, I mean, some time back, Janvi and Saheli, they would agree with me that all of their classmates have already got full internships from Internshala. Some of them are from Internshala and some of them from other sources. So that is the opportunity which they have now, which was not there 2 years back. So that is something which I would completely agree with Mr. Mandal, and I think that will be a good thing for the students, especially for the pandemic, and that's a good opportunity for them to learn new things. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, Dr. Rashmi, I think it's time now, and we'll wind it up. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Vani. So we'll just quickly highlight on certain aspects which were segmented today. We started off with Miss Nisha, happening to state what the situation is, what the situation was, and what it is going to be looking like futuristically in a very general format. From there, we had Orgyo who stepped in and happened to share about what students need to be developing in themselves, and what sort of attitude they need to carry for themselves when they're stepping into the industry. Then we had Sneha coming in with learning and development tools. She also gave her insights as student, which was very personalized. And then finally, we had Arnav who, touched upon why students should choose HR analytics and, why analytics at large has a great market in future. So these were, just one-liners because we are running short of time and it's too late. Guys, thank you. I had roped in you all for 1.5 hours, and thank you for that valuable time. The entire team is glued for 3 hours. It's something very, very, nice to see. Happy to see that, but at the same time, valuing each one's time. Dr. Gopal sir, Vani madam, Sapna, Dr. Sapna, anything to be summed up?
Can we have a photograph, please, sir? A smiling face of everybody. Before I place my
I know it's tiring, and some of us have actually given
you
away
need that
things.
for the record purpose. I mean, we are bound by the statutory authorities. And so they ask
Saheli,
us,
you can also
have you done some webinars? So please show me the proof. So
yes,
this becomes the proof.
Saheli and Janvi, can you please put up your camera so that we can take a snap?
And I would request everybody to smile. Janvi, not this. I want all your 32 teeth to come up. Yeah. Nisha, Sneha, also all the 32 teeth to be shown so that. Good. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Before I end it up, I would again like to mention that we at DYPUSM, DY Patil deemed to be University School of Management, have a 3-year BBA course, the admission for which is open. We have a 2-year MBA course, the admission for which is open. I would also like to mention that we have again an upcoming webinar which is on healthcare sector and which will be on the challenges and opportunities which are faced by the healthcare sector. So hope to see you all on the upcoming webinar which is scheduled on Saturday. I would now like to place my thanks to our university officials, the Chancellor, Vice Chancellor, Chairman, Registrar. I would also like to place my thanks to Professor Dr. R. Gopal, Director and HOD of DYPUSM, Dr. Vani Kamath, Dean of DYPUSM, for giving the opportunity for conducting such a webinar. Dr. Rashmi Shirit for holding such a webinar and making us aware about the rethinking of HR analytics, what the HR can be. I would also like to place my thanks on to our associate partners, Indian Merchant Chambers, MSME Chamber of Commerce and Industry of India, New Delhi, WTC World Trade Center, Navi Mumbai, Maharashtra Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture, NCCIA, Global Exports India, Global Team, for helping us and being there with us for this webinar. I would also like to place my thanks to the faculties and also to the guests, the speakers for today, Ms. Nisha Shetty, Mr. Orgya Mandal, Mr. Arnab Mandal, Ms. Neha, our students, Sahili and Janvi for making this event successful. And also lastly, I would also place my thanks to the viewers who are watching our webinar across the globe also, and also the faculty members and anybody who's viewing it, make this event successful. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. It was a wonderful, wonderful session. I learned a lot of things today, and all of you all were really, really excellent. Thank you very much, and God bless all of you.